mechanism.
180 different ethnic groups apparently in Russia today.
Well, in the Soviet Union, you had in each republic a slightly different national, ethnic and religious grouping. And the consequence of that is that the Chinese have had an administrative solution to the question of national identity within China. There are about 52 different nationalities in China, and in these regions, which are dominated by minority nationalities, there has been what you can call Han chauvinism. That means that the Han nationality, which is about 90% of the Chinese population, have control over the state bureaucracy. And so if you want someone to do your bidding inside a different region of China, like Tibet or Xinjiang, as the case in point of the Uyghurs, then you send in officials, or you find local officials who are amenable to the central state policy. The consequence of that is you try to resolve, in this case, the problem of what they believe is the danger of Islamic fundamentalism. They try to resolve that, knowing that they're rapidly going to develop the economy of this area by trying to integrate all the Uyghur population in the urban areas into a modern type society, similar to Chongqing or Shanghai or Shenzhen. These are areas that have remained quite backwards economically. But now as part of the Belt and Road Initiative, linking together China and the main cities in China with the continent of Eurasia and of Africa, the idea is they will resolve this in 4 or 5 years' time. And they will do this administratively, and thus the camps, which are basically work camps and education camps, to try and integrate together.
This is a nice thing to do.
Sorry?
This is a nice thing to do for all these people.
I mean, I don't believe it's a nice thing to do, and I've explained why I believe it's an administrative solution rather than a sensitive democratic solution. And you can see the same problem emerging in Hong Kong. Now, the demonstrations the last few days, everybody in the Western media has made out this is some grand, democratic, motivated demonstration. Now, maybe some people in Hong Kong are demonstrating for democratic reasons. But actually what's happening is, in my opinion anyway, is that Hong Kong nationalism, in other words, Hong Kong separatism, is developing in Hong Kong. I mean, what was the issue? The issue was a Hong Kong man murdered his girlfriend in Taiwan. And the Taiwanese authorities cannot extradite this murderer to Taiwan to face trial. And so what they've said is, they've mobilized opinion in Hong Kong, basically based on, there's a movement, quite a widespread movement in Hong Kong, came out of Occupy and Umbrella movement, which calls itself localism. And the localists basically want Hong Kong to be independent.
Well, 7 million people compared with 1.4 billion.
Yeah, but don't forget.
How are they going to cope with all that? Absolute
How are they going to what?
Impossible. A little dot down there in the south of
Oh,
China.
it's not impossible.
Well, it is almost, isn't it? I mean, what can Britain do about it? Nothing.
Well, the funny thing
We're
is,
supposed to be
the funny thing is,
guarantors.
under British colonial rule, don't forget,
The Chinese loved it.
if you committed a crime in England and you went to Hong Kong to hide, you'd be extradited to England. If you committed a crime in Hong Kong and you came to England before 1997, you'll be extradited to Hong Kong. Now the British media and the politicians and the mass media around the world are all screaming, oh my God, Hong Kongers can be transported to China to face trial. Hong Kong, that's part of the agreement, is part of China. They only gave Hong Kong to the British because the British bombed China and forced the Chinese to consume opium. That's why Hong Kong was part of Britain. And of course it's utter hypocrisy to say, now to scream and shout about the rights of the Hong Kong people, from Britain to demand the Hong Kong people have some special exemption. In any case, the truth of the matter is, sorry? They used to have British passports, then they gave them local they didn't end up giving them all a passport. So that was one thing a lot of Hong Kong people wanted, and still want today, is the right to come to Britain. And I think that's fair enough. The British, after all, were responsible for Hong Kong. If people want to leave to England, well, I think that's fair enough. Sorry? Well, they've already got a special status. I didn't say that. What I said was, I was explaining what the dynamics behind what we're seeing are. I wasn't taking a moral standpoint, except in relation to the hypocrisy of the British. Because the British of all countries in the world, should have no say whatsoever about what happens in Hong Kong. They might offer people rights to come here, but to have a say over what happens in Hong Kong, after they stole the country, stole the city from the Chinese by bombing them and forcing the people to take opium, is a bit bloody strong. You know, that's the truth of the matter. So that's about imperialist history. But as I said, the question I was asked first of all was about Chinese policy towards minorities and nationalities inside China. And I believe that that generally is carried through on a bureaucratic method which inevitably alienates the people even more. So, well, it wasn't an independent country, it was a protectorate of Britain. So in other words, it's a semi-colony of Britain. So that's not quite the same thing as independent. Well, that's not true. That's not true. From the 13th century onwards, Tibetans and Chinese were interlinked together. So that's not quite right what you're saying. But never mind. As I said, my complaint about the method of the what's called in Marxist terms, the national policy in China, is that they bureaucratically force people into the control of the administration of the central state, rather than seeking mechanisms or being able to use mechanisms of democratic participation and control. And so inevitably, this bureaucratic method of administration of the national question creates tension and conflict. That's why, after all, if you read the writings of the Dalai Lama, you'll see in the early 50s, the Dalai Lama was happy to discuss with Mao Zedong about the fate of China and the fate of Tibet. But actually, the Dalai Lama's cousin was in league with the CIA and organised a terrorist movement to try and overthrow the Communist Party in Tibet. And sorry? I said why. Because the national policy, I mean, I tried to explain, sorry? Well, that's what they said about Bin Laden as well. Well, it depends on the circumstances and the country. It's not quite... Sorry? Well, that's debatable. I think it's debatable. Well, I was trying to explain. I know you came a bit later after the beginning of the meeting. If you check on the video itself, no, I don't think you have. But in any case, the answer that I gave is explaining how the system in China works. I was not trying to take a moral standpoint on it, as you're trying to make me do. Freedom fighting, for example, the struggle against apartheid in South Africa, for example, when that was going on in the military campaign, I was opposed to that military campaign at that time, although I supported the ANC and the struggle for liberation in South Africa. I did not agree with the utilisation of bombs as the primary focus of the liberation struggle, nor in Northern Ireland. When the IRA were bombing in London, I was opposed to that bombing campaign. There are some people on the left who supported those campaigns. I unequivocally stated my opposition to those campaigns at that time. So you're not correct to argue that freedom fighting is the same thing as picking up guns and using armed struggle against the regime. In some circumstances, it's justified and correct to do so. But in a minority, the reason why in South Africa I did not agree in the struggle against apartheid with the armed struggle was because, or the majority of the armed struggle, was for a very simple logistical reason. And that is because South Africa is a flat country. China and Cuba were mountainous countries. In a mountainous terrain, it is possible to win an armed struggle against a more powerful state. For the very simple reason that, just the same as in the Jing... yes, exactly. No, that doesn't make them freedom fighters. It makes them fighting for the independence of Tibet. Sometimes fighting for independence could be a reactionary movement. For example, when the Catalans... Sorry?
So Nelson Mandela was wrong to be part of the armed struggle, and the leader of the armed struggle in South Africa, because South Africa was flat.
That's right. It was a tactical question.
So if he was doing it in the city, then it would be fine.
In a mountainous area, you can win an armed struggle more easily. In an urban environment, you will not win a terrorist armed struggle. That's why the IRA lost. Simple as that. It's an urban revolutionary struggle. However, in the case of Tibet, it's not a revolutionary struggle. It's a counter-revolutionary struggle.
Comrade.
Yes, that's what I'm arguing. It's no secret to my ideas, you know. However, the reason why the armed struggle was the decisive question was because in Tibet it is mountainous. And therefore, he who controls the main passageway between Lhasa and the outside controls the society. So this is the reason why the struggle was going to take that form. However, the Tibetans were outnumbered, or are now outnumbered by the Han Chinese. That policy I don't agree with. Because if you simply swamp a people with another type of people, with another ethnic background, national background, cultural background, then I believe that alienates the indigenous people and leads to future conflicts, which will be, you know, may well burst out into violence as well. And so therefore, in relation to the Uyghurs, I disagree with the method that the Chinese government is using. And in relation to Tibet, I disagree with the method the Chinese government is using. I don't agree with the fact that Tibet is part of China, any more than I disagree with the fact that Catalonia is part of Spain. Sorry? I think Catalonia is part of Spain, and I think it should remain part of Spain. If the people of Catalonia declare independence, well, fair enough, but I don't argue for their independence. I believe it's negative from the standpoint of the people of Spain and Catalonia to break away. I believe it will be negative, ultimately, for the Scottish to break away from Britain. I believe that will be the case. The Northern Irish are a different issue. The unification of Ireland trumps the issue of the rights of the Protestants in Northern Ireland, in my view. So that's roughly how I see the spread on the national question. You had a question, anyone? Which was, no? Oh, are there any questions from the... Let me just take Tina here quickly. Tina is the daughter of a man, some of you may know, Barry Roberts, used to speak here many years ago. Until a few years ago, I don't know, when did he die? Last year, wasn't last year. So Tina just wanted to say a few words first of all. So would you like to come up and say something now? I'll be back up afterwards. It'll be on the cam anyway.
Sorry, hang on.
Speak it, don't read it.
I know, I'm going to have to.
Well, mix it together. Don't just speak it from the machine. Right? That's it. You're fine.
Oh, it's very high up here.
Windy as well, yeah.
Good afternoon, Speaker's Corner. Hello, London. Thank you very much, Haiku, for giving me a couple of minutes of your time here, and thank you to everyone here. If you just humour me for a couple of minutes. As Heiko mentioned, my dad, Barry Roberts, used to speak here every Sunday from the late 70s until 2001 when he moved away. I've just come here today on Father's Day just to say a few words in his memory, because this was a place he loved. He loved the art of debate and the cut and thrust of debate. And he used to come here to learn by speaking to tens of thousands of people from all over the world here in Speaker's Corner, this very special place. One of the ideals and the notions that was very important to him was the idea of equality and human rights. And I believe that we are in a battle of ideas, and that's why we come here to Speaker's Corner, to fight that battle of ideas. And across the world, it is the battle of ideas that's fueled the hot and cold wars across the world, that's destroying people, animals, our habitat and the very earth that we inhabit. And so currently it seems that if we take, for example, that idea of equality, what is equality? And I think about equality in its entirety. Social equality, political equality, and social equality, and human rights. Should we all be equal? Well, I'm here today to say, in memory of my dad, as he believed it, that we should all be equal. If you think about the total wealth of this country, it's £11 trillion, and that's the official figures from the Office of National Statistics. That's £11,000 billion. Where is it all? I'll tell you where it is. It's in the deep, heavy pockets of the fat cat billionaires, and it's in their offshore accounts. It's in the empty luxury apartments that are down the road. And yet these elites, the 1%, the 0.1%, they have such pressure against us even raising the national minimum wage. Do you know what the national living wage is? It's £8.21 an hour. And that equates to an annual salary of just over £15,000 a year. Who can live on that? And that's before tax. So we need to win that battle of ideas. Do you want your money back? These elites have been hoovering up over the last 30 years. Well, we want it back. But we need to win that battle of ideas. And I believe we should be bringing those ideas here. We should be fighting that battle. And I hope you'll come here with an open mind and continue to debate and speak to everyone and learn. And that's why Speaker's Corner is so special. And I'll leave it there. Thank you very much for your time.
Hey!
Thank you.
I noticed you didn't read.
No, I didn't. Thank you very much.
Good blood, girls. Good blood. Great. All right, well, you bring it up because I'm lost now. That's the Speaker's Corner blood, you see, that is. That's Barry. Barry. Who remembers Barry? You guys, him, and the rest of you. Elisa, of course. Barry's daughter.
Yeah.
Where were we? Any questions from the audience, ladies and gentlemen? Yeah, what about it? Out of what?
Out of poverty. There's a counter-argument saying that it's basically modern imperialism.
Okay, the term globalization basically is a term that is used to denote an expanding trade between all countries in the world and an increasing intercommunication and interconnection through trade of the entire world. That process has been going on for a long time. There's nothing new about it. But when the 7 Years' War was fought, there was a war basically about globalization. The Spanish, the French, the British, all around the world fighting over territory that they would occupy and use. And so it was integrated together from its inception with the concept in people's minds of imperialism. By imperialism, it means that the most wealthy capitalist countries, the first players in the field, gained a dominant position over world trade, backed by armies and navies. They consolidated their position and cut the world up and divided it up between them. After, 1896, they divided Africa, and they used to say they sliced it up like a melon. Sliced it up like a melon. And you see countries throughout Africa divided by lines in the sand, straight lines demarcating what the country is. Whereas Africa should have been a universal continent of the people of Africa, it became many different countries with different nations, religions, ethnicity and so on, all cut up by imperialism.
Colonialism created the different ethnicities and religions of Africa.
Cut up and divided,
Yeah, but it was
and then
divided before
exacerbated
as well.
the contradictions that existed between them. So you're correct to qualify it, but you're not correct to say it's false. Because, for example, the Hutus and the Tutsis in Rwanda, they were perfectly happy to live together, but one was manipulated by the French, the other by the Americans and the British.
Because
And
they were
that
put in the same
resulted
country.
in the 1990s in a slaughter between them, between different groupings, backed by different imperial powers.
So what you're saying is you believe in nation states. You believe the Tutsi and the Hutu should have their own country.
I
and
didn't
then
say
they wouldn't
anything of
have
the
had a war.
sort. I
That's
said
what it's-
Africa.
I mean, that's what
I
the
said
implication
Africa
is.
should have been a united continent.
And then everyone could kill each other. Because what you just said is, okay, the Hutu and the Tutsi fought each other because they were in Rwanda.
I didn't say that. I was talking.
was
Hang
a
on, hang on.
mistake.
I was not taking again a confusion here. I was not taking a moral standpoint on the dynamics of globalization. I was explaining what they are. There were two components to that. One component was the general process of expanding trade as a consequence of the emergence and development of capitalism. The second was, within that process, that some countries, the European countries, America and Japan, gained a dominant position within world capitalism about the beginning of the 19th century.
Oh, come on, before that.
Well, I said about.
No, it's more like the
I said the 7
it was
Years'
technology.
War.
It was a superior technology of the European nations.
Well, actually, in
Because they devised-
1820, according to Madison, India and China were wealthier than Britain or America or any other country in the world.
It doesn't matter. The
So it
physical
does
wealth.
matter.
No, it's because they had a large population. The physical wealth may have been there, but the actual technological advancement, which is all that matters, which is why the Europeans
Well, that's not
conquered
correct
India and China
either.
to begin
You're
with.
incorrect on that as
Oh,
well.
yeah, by 1820, Europe was far in advance technologically of any other place on Earth, which is why they could conquer all the other places.
Well, that's
on
not
Earth.
true.
Otherwise, why did they do it? How could Britain conquer India?
Because they're going to bring the Greece
Hang
in.
on, hang on.
That's why.
China had, if you read, there's an encyclopedia written by a Cambridge professor called Joseph Needham. And Joseph Needham wrote the book called Science and Civilization in China, where he documented all the fields of science and technology and culture where the Chinese outstripped the West.
Up until the Renaissance.
Not only in the Renaissance, even during the Renaissance. Even during the Renaissance and the Enlightenment, the Chinese were still ahead in the key sectors, in many key sectors. The Western capitalist system overtook them primarily because, one, they had global imperial ambition, the Chinese did not. Zheng He, for example, earlier than the West, had already sent ships to Africa. Some people say they even visited South America and Australia. But the Chinese officials, dealing with an internal economic system and an internal control, some might say, I believe incorrectly, internal imperialism rather than external imperialism, whereas if you compare that with Britain, a small island state with a powerful navy and a powerful army, impelled forward by the dynamics of capitalist industrialization, that led them, in order to conquer new markets, so that the internal market wasn't completely saturated and turned in on itself with internal social conflict,
Do you know when
like
Principia-
Peterloo and so
Do
on.
you know when Principia Mathematica was published by Newton?
Yes, that's not the only. What has that got to do with the question?
With that book, Newton established the laws of gravity, the motion of the planets and the stars, so way in advance of anything Chinese science or any other kind of science had ever done. That was before the 18th century.
I think
So,
use that
so, it,
technology.
China's
so hang
more
on, hang on.
advanced.
So you're saying that by publishing Principia,
Yeah.
you suddenly have a transformation of the world.
Yes, to a degree, and then that
So,
was developed.
so a
into-
scientific idea transforms the world just because it exists.
No, people applied it to engineering, to the
Right,
development of
right.
guns, cannons.
So the
ships.
application, right?
Yeah.
Where did gunpowder come from?
No, I admit China was more advanced before the Renaissance.
Where did-
By the time that we get to the 17th, 18th,
My friend,
19th century, Europe was so far advanced
Right.
because
I
it had
specified a date. 1820, because you said
Before 1820,
because
before
you said
1820.
before 1820, Britain and co had a huge advantage over the others, but that's disputed.
I don't think it is. I think anybody.
Well,
I would like to see where you say.
The reason why you have to very interesting.
There is a book by
You
the
asked a very interesting question as to why the West advanced over India, China. One of the reasons was the accidental discovery of the New World. Spain, France,
Also-
Netherlands, and
also-
Britain were able to import vast amounts of silver and gold.
Also,
and was able
yes.
to fuel their capital development. Let me finish.
Also-
That was one reason, and they used that excess supply of silver and gold that was accidentally discovered to go out and purchase the Bengali army of India. So they paid sepoys to not fight for the local Nawab, but fight for them, and that was one of the reasons why they conquered. So it was because of an accident that led to an accumulation of capital that was then used very productively to go out and conquer the rest of the world. Other countries did not have this accidental discovery of silver.
and when the British arrived,
It was an accident because Christopher Columbus set off not to discover the Americas, but to discover which country? India and China. So it was an accident. No one predicted there would be a new world there. No one predicted that there would be so much gold and silver there. No one predicted there would be spices there. No one predicted there would be potatoes there. Christopher Columbus convinced the Spanish monarchy, I am going to go and trade with India and China, not to discover a vast quantity of gold, silver, and commodities for you that you can then use to trade with the rest of the world and supersede the rest of the world.
And that
well,
might
the
be the
big question,
material
the
reason
big
for
question.
the Enlightenment.
Let me just,
Hold
let
on,
me just
hold on.
clarify one thing for you. Then you
So
come
that
back
was
to
the
it.
reason. That was the accidental reason.
Okay. This debate you're touching on, as I said, the central figure in this debate, in intellectual circles around the world, in global scholarship, right, is the man by the name of Joseph Needham. The question why China did not establish its dominance and, or better said, maintain its dominance in the world is called the Needham puzzle. You can look it up on Wikipedia. And the Needham puzzle is concerned with why China, with its advantage in technology, science and culture, up until 1820, according to Madison, why China did not establish its dominance. And there are different views on this. One of them is concerned with mathematics. One of them is concerned with the social structure of China, which I think is more accurate. However, the argument that this is not the central discussion about which countries dominated the world is nonsense. I mean, this is actually the central scholastic argument about this question in the world.
Sorry, I don't follow that last.
It's called the Needham puzzle.
Okay.
Right? You're saying that I'm talking nonsense because I'm suggesting that someone else could have become the dominant economic power in the world.
Oh no.
Or that Britain or France or Germany need not have dominated the world.
Of course they needn't to. Of course they didn't. But once they made the scientific discoveries, I think it was fairly inevitable.
Well, I don't
that
think
they have
that's
a
correct.
technological advantage, and unfortunately,
But that- what I
humans
said- I
being
just
what
said
they
to
are,
you-
they want to dominate.
I
I'm
said
sorry,
to you,
I don't
if
buy
you
it.
check, I'm not asking you to buy it. What I'm saying is not my opinion.
No, you haven't heard
What I'm saying
buying.
is the global research on economic development and the formation of global power in modern times is summarized in the question called the Needham puzzle. And the Needham puzzle is concerned with why China did not maintain its dominant position in the world, even though it was more advanced in science and technology than the West. That's the question. So
Factually incorrect,
maybe,
but anyway.
well, you're saying it's factually, but you've never even heard of it before. I just spent 8 years studying this for my PhD.
What was your
So,
PhD in?
Chinese political economy.
Okay.
Right? I just spent 8 years studying. Doesn't mean I'm right,
No, it doesn't.
but at least I know the field of discussion. What I was talking about, because this gentleman asked me, was about globalization. I said there was a process of globalization before imperialism. But imperialism consolidated a particular pattern of globalization dominated by Britain, France, Belgium, Spain to some degree, but Spain was a lesser power. And in fact, one illustration to prove that your argument is incorrect was the following. When the British went to China and tried to trade with the Chinese, the trade was entirely one way. The Chinese exported to England. Everybody, even in the royal household, was buying Chinese silk, Chinese ceramics, Chinese products, Chinese spices. I mean, over there they were talking about food earlier on. They didn't even have fish and chips in England in those days, right? They used to eat porridge and gunk. The Chinese had a much more sophisticated economy, and the consequence of that was that the British tried to find something they could sell to the Chinese, because they were gradually running out of silver with which they were paying the Chinese. The consequence of that was Britain came up with a great idea. Sell them opium. And that's how Britain came to attack China in the Opium Wars, and it was their military superiority which allowed them to defeat the Chinese. Their military is one component of technological, because the British were prepared to use gunpowder to kill people. The Chinese had been using gunpowder for entertainment. The British had a bit more bloody and vampiristic taste.
So
They wanted to use entertainment as a method of murder and conquest.
So the Chinese
And
were a
so
pacifist
yes,
society,
that
that's what you're saying.
combination, sorry?
The Chinese were a pacifist society. They were more
I didn't
pacifist
say
than
China.
Britain.
You see here, it's this Boris Johnson in you that you need to clean out of yourself, right? Not everything was made by Boris Johnson and Winston Churchill and his children.
Can I ask you a question?
Some parts of the world invented,
Can I ask you a
thought,
question?
created, developed long before Britain
Yeah,
came
the
on the
Western
scene.
people, we get it.
Let me
Can I
ask you a question.
No, I want to ask you a question because, you seem knowledgeable on this.
I'm reasonably
Okay,
knowledgeable.
So as you said, right, the gold and silver coming in, okay? The country which had more gold and silver than any country in the West was, of course, Spain, right?
Yeah, but Spain had been defeated by the British already.
When?
Spanish Armada, my friend, Spanish Armada.
cripple Spain.
I thought you knew your frigging British history.
That didn't cripple Spain. Come on. Spain was powerful
That
after
was
the
the
Spanish
signal
Armada.
for the defeat
Why
of
didn't
Spain.
the Spanish Armada develop the Enlightenment, the Industrial Revolution,
Oh, for God's
etc.,
sake,
etc.?
my friend. The point I made about
Technological
the point that was made about Spain, the point that was made about silver. The point about silver was as follows, I repeat again, because I know you had the Johnsonite block. Now, the problem is this. The British acquired silver, which of course you can't really eat or do much with, make a couple of knives and forks, and even they bend too easily. So there wasn't a great product. But they sold the silver to the Chinese to acquire everything the Chinese had, right? You look in the London Illustrated News, 1840s. It's all like China this, Chinese that, the wonders from China, which we don't have and we want. And how do we get it? Sell them drugs. Drug dealer, drug peddler. And now, of course, the Boris Johnsonites, who forget that their great-grandparents were drug dealers.
Yours too.
Not mine, mine were Chinese. My grandfather is my father is Chinese. That side is Chinese, the others are German.
Other side?
The other side German.
Well then.
They weren't drug
peddlers.
dealers. They weren't drug peddlers. They weren't drug
My family
peddlers.
was Irish, so actually at this time my family was dying of the potato famine. Blah,
Oh,
blah,
good
blah,
for
blah,
you. Shame you didn't carry on. Whoa!
Shame.
That's Speaker's Corner for you. Look at that. Speaker's Corner. The wrath and roar. Anyway, the central point being, firstly, I was concerned with the general development of economic relations under capitalism. That's globalization. Then there's a particular skew to globalization created by imperialism, dominated by Western Europe and Britain in particular. Britain, don't forget, and here's your glory, you can raise your fist in a minute. Britain, don't forget, created an empire on which the sun never set. A fifth of the surface of the planet came under British rule. In 1947, not that long ago, the British had the biggest empire in world history. In world history. and one of the most barbaric at the same time. But of course, the Johnsonites would like to make you believe that British history is all about greatness. Great Britain, rule Britannia. Britannia rules the waves. Britons never, never will be slaves. And that's why these people, the Brexiteer, the leaver, leave now, immediately. We've been betrayed, we're being treated like dogs. The Europeans are messing us up. The Somalians, for a start, they're messing us up. Okay, they're maybe not European, but who cares? It's the same. They're all messing us up. But of course, they have a very selective view of history.
Can you give me an example of a virtuous empire?
I'll give you
an empire
I'll give you
more
an example of
virtuous than the British?
selectivity.
Of what, sorry?
Well, here you have it, you see. Can you give me an example of a more virtuous empire?
Yeah. I'm not saying the British Empire was virtuous, not at all. Right?
So
I'm not
why are you
blind
arguing that
patriot. I think that all empires have been pretty shitty in general.
Well, yes, but I'm talking about the British one.
No, but you're saying the British are
The
particularly
point
bad.
is,
the British
the
are worse than
reason...
anyone else.
No, I didn't say that. I just said,
So you're
here's
right.
your moment of glory, and you're not even reveling in it. Right? You're supposed to be enjoying it. Yes, that was me, my family. We went to India, we went to Burma, we went to Afghanistan. 4 times to Afghanistan. 4 times. Defeated 4 times in a row. That's a pretty good record. The Soviets only went once. The British went 4 times to Africa. And you've got a split personality, so we'll lean on that for now. Because you're part Irish. Sorry?
Fully Irish, fully Irish.
Okay, fully Irish. Fully Irish but become British. Well, good for you.
Hey man, it's just my accent. Come on, I haven't said that I'm pro-British yet.
I know you haven't. I know you haven't. I know you
I'm
haven't. You
curious
just
about
implied
your
it by everything you said. But never mind. Now, the fact of the matter is, if the British Empire was an imperial empire conquering the entire world and continues that trade relationship, that's why the British talking about Hong Kong. What's Hong Kong got to do with the British? Nothing. Apart from the fact they sold them drugs, because they couldn't sell them anything else. And they sold them drugs with tea they'd taken from China, planted in India, made the money, and then, sold the Chinese drugs, produced the drugs in India, sold them to the Chinese as well. So it's hardly a virtuous empire. Now, I'm not arguing that empires should be virtuous. By definition, they shouldn't be virtuous. The nature of empires, that they're conquering another people, repressing another people.
Including the Soviet Empire.
Well, I don't believe the Soviet was an empire.
Well, they killed just more people than the British, let's be honest. If you're trying to say to this audience that the British Empire was the devil, but the Soviet Empire was the utopia to save us all, you're probably going to have a hard time doing it.
Firstly,
I don't know the audience, but in general...
Well, if I was to
people
say
don't
that,
agree with
probably I would, but I'm not saying that. So why are you saying I am saying that?
Would you say that, though?
No. So what are you talking about?
Are you a Marxist-Leninist? Just so we know what we're dealing with.
Well, I don't know what you mean by that.
Do you think the Russian Revolution was positive?
Yes?
Okay. Do you think Lenin was a good man who ran a good state?
Yes?
Do you think Stalin was a good man who ran a good state?
No?
Okay, so we stop with Lenin. Okay.
That's right.
Okay, well, 1920s Soviet Russia, I mean,
You mean what?
I wouldn't personally
what?
advocate that. I mean, it's
So what?
It's your decision, but if
Wasn't
you're
my
saying that the British Empire was the devil, the Antichrist, and Soviet Union of the 1920s was a glorious utopia.
When did I say glorious
utopia?
utopia? When did I say glorious utopia? Anybody hear that word come out of my mouth?
You said the Soviet Union was positive. That Lenin was
It
a
was
good man and
let me give
Churchill
you-
was the devil.
I didn't say Churchill was the devil.
Do you think Churchill was an evil man? It's hard to pin you
Listen,
down.
again,
I'm just,
listen, I know it's hard to pin me down because you're throwing up what you want to pin me down with and then saying, I want to pin you down with this. You must fit with what I pin you down with.
You did the same to me.
You haven't even heard me speak.
What people do, you did the same to me.
No, we were talking about globalization, the process of global intercommunication and intercommunication of trade. The dynamics behind that was an automatic process of economics. Then I said the dynamics of capitalism led to the formation of certain nation states that dominated world trade and world economics, and also militarily divided up the world and conquered large parts of the world. After decolonization, which basically was inspired by the Russian Revolution, because the Russian Revolution dragged part of the world out of the orbit of global capitalism and imperialism. But the British didn't want that to happen. So they invaded Russia after 1918. They invaded Russia and tried to overthrow the government. Nevertheless, they were defeated. And after they were defeated, they constantly sought the overthrow. Sorry?
Unfortunately for the Russians, they were defeated.
Well, that's just your personal viewpoint.
Yeah, well, it's all our personal.
It's not. Some things are fact, some things are
widely,
disputes.
as I said, it's a widely. Not many people are going to say the Soviet Union was great. Even people who believe in socialism often will say that the Russian Revolution was an aberration. They did things wrong. So, I'm not defending the British Empire or shitty things were done. But
again, you haven't heard my views on the Soviet Union, so you've got no basis.
Tell us. We're here to hear you speak.
Well, there really wasn't a discussion I was talking about. I don't mind going on to that, provided you're prepared to engage in a following a discussion about what happened, rather than simply throwing your prejudices against me, like one statement after another. One way of doing that would be to negate your arguments in advance. So, firstly, did Stalin kill lots of people? Yes, probably millions. I don't know how many millions. Some figures said about 3. Some people said 4. Some people said 10. Some people said 20. I don't know how many. I would guess probably between the 3 and 5, something like that. Was it a barbaric regime? Yes. Was it a dictatorial regime? Yes. Was it a system that economically functioned? Yes and no. It functioned for large-scale projects of large-scale development, from backwardness to a basic middle level of development. It functioned to do that. It educated the people, it trained the people, it housed the people, it fed the people. Better than India did under the British. Better than Africa did under the British. But nevertheless, it had the flaws endemic in a system of society which attempts to create socialism in a very backward economy. That was the precondition to understanding the dynamics, the material dynamics. That's what I was talking about with globalization. That's what I was talking about with China. That's what I was talking about with Britain. That's what I'm talking about with the Soviet Union. The material dynamics of development, which are not moral views, they are attempts to analyze the objective dynamics in society. It's like saying to you, after 2008, the economic crisis fostered the foundation for the Brexit vote, for Donald Trump, for the move to the right in Europe. That's not because people were waiting to turn stupid. It was because the economy is the foundation for everyday life. And when the economy turned downwards, millions of people in Britain who are not educated to understand the world, they're educated to understand their own life, their own circle, their own friends, their own town, their own village. Their views were shaped by the material conditions they experienced. That's why the Brexit vote. That's why the Donald Trump vote. That's why the shift towards nationalism against globalization. So I'm trying to contextualize things in material circumstances. The future of globalization is split. It's split. On the one side, you have the process towards national segregation and the revival of all sorts of absurd and peculiar nationalist myths. For example, Britain was technologically superior than the rest of the world. Like, I don't know from when,
Why is that a nationalist myth?
Because it is.
It's not though.
Well, I tried to point out why.
It's
But
like
anyway,
saying,
let's leave that aside.
seriously.
I'll take it back. We'll leave it. I don't want to get into silly repetition of the same argument.
No, because it's
you
like
wanted
saying,
to talk about the
if you
Soviet
say
Union.
today- no, if you
You
say
wanted
today,
to talk about the
Japan-
Soviet Union.
Japan is more technologically advanced than Kenya.
Yes.
That's not a value judgment on the two countries.
That's
just
correct.
a fact.
That's correct.
Okay, well, in the same way, say Britain was more
Yeah,
technologically
but we've
advanced than
disputed
China.
that argument, and it's all on tape, and you can check.
Yeah, but
So,
you haven't disproved
the
it.
Needham puzzle.
You haven't disproved it.
I didn't. How can I
The Needham
disprove in
puzzle, one
Speaker's
scholar.
Corner? I can speak in Speaker's Corner. I can't disprove.
Exactly.
I can argue in Speaker's Corner. I can't disprove. You can disprove by looking at what was said, checking the references, look up Wikipedia Needham puzzle, and then check out the references. You can check whether Britain was higher or not. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. If you're right, you're right.
You're
You
confusing
can check it.
technological development and GDP. the leading cousin.
Well, I don't
Just
see
because
when I
China
did
had
that.
a higher GDP doesn't mean it was
My
more
friend,
technologically
we've done
advanced.
this argument. You asked me to talk about the Soviet Union. I went onto the Soviet Union.
And then you went back. You
I
started
went back
choosing
momentarily.
peddling nationalist
Momentarily. Now I'm going back on.
myths. Peddling nationalist myths.
So tell me, yes, I said, so tell me what I've said wrong about the Soviet Union.
The Soviet Union had no freedom. The Soviet Union is basically because
Did
what you're-
India
what
have
you're saying-
freedom?
This is the
Did
problem.
India have freedom?
India had more freedom than the Soviet
1917,
Union. More freedom than the Soviet Union, yes.
my friend, I've got
Hindus
a
could
book.
at least practice their religion.
I've got a book of British history.
At least the Hindus
I've
could
got a
practice their
book of
religion.
British history. In India, under British colonization in the 1920s, they used to crucify Indian freedom fighters, physically crucify them, just like Jesus Christ, tie them to a cross, and leave them to burn in the sun.
British Raj
That's
was
freedom,
terrible.
is it? That's freedom. And
British
Ritza
Raj was
massacre as
terrible.
well. Not only
They
and
would have
Ritza
done the same in the
massacre,
Soviet Union.
in 1943 to 1944, 3 million people in West Bengal were starved to death by conscious policy of the British in the Second World War. So, tell me about freedom, my friend.
No, okay, they're both equally terrible. Yeah.
Well, I don't know whether they're equally
But at least
terrible.
a small
I'm merely
level,
arguing
a small
freedom is
ray
not a
of
strong
light
argument.
Is the fact in the British Raj, you could practice whatever religion you believed in. You could practice Islam, you could practice Hinduism. If you went
That's
to,
about religion.
that's an important thing. Particularly for
An
India, where a
important
lot of
thing to
people
some
are religious.
people.
You,
To some
because you're an
people.
atheist, you
So
underestimate
come
that.
back to the questions you wanted to talk about the Soviet Union. Religious
Soviet
freedom.
Union.
I'm not disputing there was no religious freedom under Stalin. I'm not disputing it. So what's the question?
So not only were you living in economic hell, not only
Why was it
there
economic
famine
hell?
and death,
Why was it economic hell?
because it was greatly less advanced. It did not. Soviet
How
Union,
rich was the Soviet Union in 1917?
the
How
Soviet-
rich was the Soviet Union in 1961?
Yes, they capitalised, they industrialised the pre-industrial.
So was it
country.
economic hell if they were raised from an agricultural country where the people were effectively serfs fighting in the First World War with no even proper uniforms on, fighting in the trenches and dying like dogs dying in the trenches.
Because they didn't
And
die
yet,
like dogs under the Soviet Union.
this was the First World War, my friend. And yet,
you're the one
within
arguing the
40
difference.
years, they had developed to the second most powerful economy in the world. And you're talking about economic hell.
No. It wasn't through economics that they developed that. It was through defeating Nazi Germany. As
And
soon
they
as-
defeated Nazi Germany.
No. They
And
defeated Nazi
contrary
Germany.
to what last
To the
week, was
victor
it last week or
spoils.
week before? D-Day.
To the victor.
D-Day. The Johnsonites and the BBC wanted to tell you that the British and Americans won the Second World War against the Nazis. That's the sort of shit they peddle and spout out on television. The British played almost no role in the Second World War. The Americans
They
played
played some
almost
role.
no role. I said
The
almost
British
no
people
role.
died fighting
I did not say, I'm not saying British didn't die fighting Hitler, but for every British and American soldier that died fighting Hitler, 80 people in the Soviet Union
Yes, and
died.
who were they supplied arms by? The Americans, right?
But they did the fighting.
Right.
They
But
did
they
the
had
fighting.
No arms. They were supplied arms by the
Two-thirds,
Americans.
two-thirds of the German army faced Russia. Two-thirds.
And who divided Poland? The Russians.
Yes, they did.
And the Germans.
Yes.
That was a
Well,
wonderful
yes, they
moment
did.
in Russian communism. That
Well, I'm
really-
not, did I say I
Now the
supported that?
Polish, thank God.
The question
every
the
day
gentleman
they're free
asked
from
was,
communism.
you see, we're
Yeah,
shifting,
but they
shifting
come straight
discussion.
into the fire with the far-right government.
Sorry, when you asked me, did I support Stalin, what was my response?
No, but Lenin
Thank you,
is,
thank
I mean,
you.
he's
I
one,
want to live in Poland, I'll tell you what.
two sides of the same coin, getting
So
there.
you say, but you've provided no evidence for that. You've merely argued it.
He established the Cheka, he established the Gulag, sent people to the Gulags, political dissidents, he destroyed people's freedom of thought, freedom of art, freedom of religion. Yeah.
Freedom of art was destroyed under Lenin.
Yes.
Who was
Yes.
repressed artistic? Which artists were repressed?
Many.
Name one.
Many.
Name one.
The very fact that
Name
Russia,
one.
The very fact that Russia
Okay, not
was
artists,
known-
something else.
The very fact that Russia was a world centre.
My friend, anybody
of
go
literary
to the
thought.
Russian Revolution exhibition sponsored by Leonid Blavatnik last year in the Royal Academy? Anybody go there?
I work for Mossad.
Anybody? You will see that era was the most was the greatest flowering of art in modern times.
Yeah, but unless it was about propaganda towards the
Wasn't
Soviet
propaganda,
Russia.
not so true.
Unless it,
That's not
otherwise,
true.
Max,
That's
you weren't
not
allowed to
true.
make art.
That's not true.
It is true.
It is not true.
So if you go there, do you see
And
any
the-
art that wasn't for the Soviet Union?
Yes. Yes. The art exhibition was about the 1920s, when the time the experience the gentleman's talking about.
Grossman.
It was the greatest flourishing of art and culture.
You just asked me to name
Of
an
art
artist.
and culture.
Grossman. The Russian author
He was an
Grossman.
economist.
No, he's a Russian author, literary author. He wrote a book on Stalingrad.
Not an
novel
artist
Stalingrad.
then. Not an artist.
I mean artist in the general sense. Of,
Right, 'cause you couldn't name an
musician.
artist.
Also,
Grossman. What's his name?
Yeah, Grossman.
Heinrich Grossman.
No,
Well, I don't know
Russian.
him.
He was a Russian Jewish novelist
When was he repressed?
in the 1960s.
Sorry, you were talking about Lenin's time.
Yes, but it's from the
You said no.
continuation of the
You
same
said
policy.
under Lenin, because I said I don't agree with Stalin. So then I said, then you said, oh, under Lenin this happened, under Lenin that, under Lenin that happened. Then I said, did it? Then you said artists were repressed. I said, name an artist. You couldn't. So then you said, okay, a literary figure, Grossman, sucked out of his thumb. I said, when was this? He said 1961. Even Stalin was dead in 1961. I didn't say anything of the sort. I said nothing of the sort. My friend, unlike you and the gentleman here, as a young Marxist, when I was about your age, I used to stand up in Speaker's Corner here from 1986.
Be accorded in the Soviet Union.
And idiots used to turn around to me and say, why don't you go to Moscow? Why don't you go to East Germany? So I did. I moved in 1988 to West Berlin, and 1989 I went over the Berlin Wall and moved to East Germany. I was on Tiananmen Square in 1989. I fought against the regime. I fought against the East German regime.
Anna Akhmatova.
What's your... Anna Akhmatova.
Anna Akhmatova, very famous Russian poet.
And when was she repressed? She was a famous poet under Stalin.
Yes, she couldn't. She wrote.
So what
a
are you
whole-
talking about?
She wrote a whole poem of how crap life was under Lenin.
Really? You're not sticking to the subject or the theme
to name one.
or even your own argument.
I'm naming one.
You are
And the poem wasn't published because she couldn't publish it. I mean,
under
it's
Lenin.
such a facetious
Under
argument.
Lenin, she
asking
couldn't
me.
publish it.
You're relying on my ignorance of 1920s
Why do you
Russian
claim
art.
knowledge about something
I
when
don't.
you have no knowledge about it?
I have enough knowledge to say that it was awful.
Well, that's all you're saying. Am I disputing that? Life was awful under Lenin, life was awful under Stalin.
And that
Am I
Lenin was a
disputing
tyrant
that? No.
And a despot.
Am I disputing that? No.
You said he was a good man.
Lenin,
Of course
yes.
you believe in tyrants,
Lenin.
don't you?
Well, I didn't hear what you said. I didn't hear what you just said, but I said Lenin was a good man. I said, was life good under Lenin? No.
Do you deny that Lenin was a tyrant?
Yes, I deny that. I deny that completely. Nonsense. But in any case, that's just tyrant. It's just a terminological phrase you want to use. Throw up in the air because you think it's got some moral value.
This is the thing with Marxists, if I may. Because you don't have a scientific way to prove dialectical materialism, Marxists have to use violence.
What is
And so
dialect?
it's
What
the-
do you want to tell everybody what dialectical materialism is?
Dialectical materialism is
What's dialectics?
Dialectics is the methodology taken by Marx
Which is
from
what?
Hegel
Which is what?
and applied.
Which is what?
It's the Marxist analysis
What is
of
it?
history based
What
on
is
economic
it?
forces.
It's not history. What is dialectics?
Look, you can't just say what is it every time I give you a definition.
You said
know that
dialectical
you've got some
materialism.
memorised line.
You said it. What does it mean?
What's your definition?
Dialectics is a theory developed by Hegel, which is based on the idea that everything is driven by internal contradictions and that all matter in the universe and ideas are in a constant process of flux and transformation. Everything is in motion, driven by internal
I know
contradictions.
this. I graduated in philosophy.
Good
I
for
read.
you.
Yeah.
You just didn't know the dialectics, but that's fine.
No, I did know dialectics.
I'm just reminding
No,
you.
I did know dialectics. I didn't know the
I am
definition
going to know it, just for your personal information. I am the main guide on the Karl Marx walking tour. I know this stuff quite well.
Okay,
right?
wow.
So, and as I pointed out to you, my main sphere of political activity in my adult life, since I was 17 years of age, was the Marxist struggle against Stalinism. Right? So, just to clarify to you what you're dealing with.
Like Stalin. I know there's a split.
Right, so that's where I come from.
Okay, yeah.
Now, dialectics is this concept that everything is in a constant process of change and transformation from one form to another, from quality to quantity, quality to quantity to quality. Everything's driven by internal contradictions. What's wrong with that theory, my friend?
That's such a vague, abstract theory. I can't.
That's
say
the theory.
But what I can
you
say,
mentioned it.
No,
You brought it up.
No.
What's wrong with it?
Dialectical materialism.
Sorry? Equilibrium? No, that's correct. You have no equilibrium. That's perfectly correct.
Dialectical
Equilibrium
materialism.
is a momentary appearance. It's not a real condition. So, for example, there's that Zeno's paradox. You know that? Right. So he throws a spear through the air, right? But if you capture that spear like a photograph, it appears not to be moving, right? So the problem is it is moving. So dialectics was a resolution to that, a mechanism of understanding all things in motion. And in fact, modern chaos theory has come very similar to dialectics, very similar.
There's nothing scientific about Hegelian dialectics.
Well, tell me what's not scientific about it.
Pick up phenomenology of the spirits. It's the biggest crap you've ever read. I mean, I know. Don't get me wrong. You're Marxist.
You mean you haven't read it?
No, of course I've read it. I've read it in German. I know.
Good
I
for
know.
you.
Well, what can I say? It was still crap in that language
Dann
too.
unterhalten wir
Now,
uns in Deutsch, ja? Wie ist dein Deutsch?
ja, mein Deutsch ist also nicht so gut, aber ich kann es
Ah,
lesen.
gut,
Ich kann nicht sprechen, aber ich kann es
Okay,
lesen.
okay.
Also, now, I was criticising dialectical materialism. You're now going back to Hegelian dialectics.
I wanted to know what the first component was.
Dialectical materialism adds another axiom, which is that the human person is entirely conditioned by his economic circumstances.
Doesn't say that. Doesn't say that. Marx
I
said.
believe Marx said something to that effect.
I'll give you the exact understanding.
Tell me.
Marx argued that material conditions determine consciousness. The phrase was used by Engels to summarize it. In the last instance, Marx said himself, all we did was show that the reproduction of life is the foundation for human thought and society. The reproduction of life. That's what they told me. All aspects of life. Now that means, now there are some people who say that's not the case. Some people say God made the earth. God made, there's plenty of them at Speaker's Corner.
Evolution.
God made the earth.
Biology.
Well, what is
The problem
biology?
with Marxism is,
What is biology?
Marxism says...
What is biology?
No, Marxism says...
It's species which seek to reproduce their life.
Where did they come from?
They came from inorganic matter. From inorganic matter came organic matter. That has always existed and always will exist. Yes. Some scientists agree with me, not all. The dominant theory in science is to argue that the Big Bang happened about 13.4 billion years ago. That is the dominant theory in science. That is also why, for example, last week we broadcast an interview with a scientist who disputes this question, because about a month ago, Eric Lerner, a picture was broadcast around the world, and they showed this picture. They said, this is a black hole. Remember? Television or radio and newspapers, they said, a black hole, M87. This is not a black hole. A black hole requires infinite time to form. Yet scientists,
What are you talking about?
scientists know that we do not have, according to their theory,
Black hole doesn't take
infinite time.
to fall. It just takes enough mass, restricts it into a small enough circumference. What are you talking about?
A singularity,
Yes.
a Schwarzstein singularity, requires infinite time for formation.
Based on what are you saying?
Based on the theories that they try and rely upon, in particular Einstein's theory of general relativity. Einstein rejected black holes, as did Stephen Hawking. They both believe it's impossible to
Sorry, is
form
there
a
anyone
black
here who
hole.
did physics, who did a degree in physics?
And
Anyone
he
here
said
studied
there
physics?
are no black holes. 2013.
This is
Einstein
complete
also
pseudoscience
said
right now.
there are no black holes, according to his
my
general
God.
theory of relativity. And you can watch the interview
Now you're
on
questioning
content.
physics, I mean.
I'm explaining to you a
You
method.
simply
A
don't know what you're talking
method.
about. This is completely untrue.
Well, as I said to you, go onto YouTube on content over everything. On YouTube C.O.E. Then look up M87 and see
What have you got
what's
against
argued.
black holes? I'm not.
Sorry.
I'm not sure what you've got
There's
against
a black
black
hole
holes.
Why did we get to this? Because we know.
Two things are amiss.
We
right?
know.
A good capitalist society and a black hole.
Either you could have a real existing black hole
Communist Manifesto
which
101.
took infinite time to create, or you could have the Big Bang. One or the other. You can't have them both.
Yes, there's two theories, steady state theory and the Big Bang. They're scientific areas.
But you cannot have a real existing black hole if you're saying it takes infinite time to create, which all the scientists do.
No one says
all
that. You just
scientists
made that
say
up.
that.
I've never heard that.
There
before
are
in my
no
life. No one
serious
says that.
scientists in cosmology who say that a black hole can be formed now in the present without infinite time for formation.
No. Oh my God, I've realised what you've been confused on. No.
The point I was arguing.
No, you're completely confused. You've got this completely wrong.
What is the picture? No, what it is cosmology is dominated by particular financial institutions.
Oh my God.
There are a limited number of telescopes in the world. Access to telescope time is restricted by finance.
How do the black holes
NASA is one of the national science in the United States. The National Science Foundation and NASA are the main financiers. They give access, one to finance, two to telescope time. Telescope time is allocated to those who agree with the dominant theory, which is that the Big Bang happened about 13.4 thousand million years ago. However, the problem is, because the majority of papers published in cosmology and in astronomy are focused on theoretical physics rather than on practical observation. The consequence of that is we can see atoms, yes. With microscopes, we can see them, yes. Yes. Sorry? He said atoms. He said, can you see atoms? Okay, that's what I argue.
Why do black holes help in the oppression
The
of
argument that is given.
What's the end game here? Come on. What's the end game? Why do black holes help in the oppression of the proletariat? Why are the bourgeois
the person who first argued there is a black hole, the first person who argued that the universe came from a Big Bang was a priest.
Oh my God.
His name is Lemaitre, right?
Conspiracy by the Vatican.
Well, the Vatican has accepted the theory.
So
why do you think the Vatican accepted the theory of Big Bang?
Green leaves. I mean,
well, the Vatican didn't used to accept it. Sorry? It is the dynamics in economics. You'll all understand this. In economics, the dominant sectors of economics that are financed to do PhDs, to do research, to get finance for their institutions, all support capitalism, right? That's not accidental. It's because that's what they believe. They believe the dominant.
Have you ever studied economics?
Yes, that was what my PhD is in. Yes.
Well then,
But I've got
you've just said that to get a PhD in the economics department, you have to be capitalist.
I didn't say that. You see, you don't listen even, do you?
You said it's funded.
I said I didn't get funding. I funded myself.
Ah, okay. Where did you do your PhD?
King's College.
In philosophy, right?
It was in political economy, Chinese
That's not
political
economics.
economy. Or what?
That's not economics. Did you
Well,
use
here you have it.
mathematics?
Here you have it.
Did you use quantitative data?
Here you have it. Here you have it. Hear that? Hang on. Did you hear what he said? Repeat what you just said. Repeat what you just said. When I said I studied political economy, China today, that's what I studied, and the history of China's economy. What was your response? What did you say? Just repeat it. So that's not a
I
crime.
have no idea what he's talking
You
about.
said, did you study quantitative economics?
Yes.
Did
yes.
you study mathematics?
Did you?
Right?
Yeah.
No. I don't believe you have to study mathematics to study the world economy. I don't believe you have to study models, computer models of quantitative economics.
There we go.
And by the way, sorry? I think to really understand economics of the world today, you do have to understand Marxism. Simple as that.
Checkmate, capitalists.
And although it's a minority viewpoint, and because it's a minority viewpoint, it is only funded by a small minority of institutions. Right? I think you'll agree with that. Most universities don't teach Marxism at economics departments. Or if they do, they barely touch the subject. They do, however, teach mathematics, quantitative easing, they teach econometrics.
How not to lose all your money, how to build a functioning government.
Here you have it. How not to lose your money. However, I remember in 2008, when the global economic crisis hit, the guys who had advocated the policies they were carrying out, the derivative swaps and derivatives from mortgages and so on, these marketable products they'd produced that were supposed to keep the world economy going. I remember Alan Greenspan, the then head of the Fed, he came on television and he said, well, I don't have an answer. Our philosophy was totally and completely wrong. In other words, all the business schools, all the economics departments, funded far higher than any physics department or any mathematics department. They were funded because corporate interests and banks were cherry picking the people from these institutions to make money for the big banks,
Can you tell us how
to
black holes
expand
fit into
their
this?
money.
But you haven't-
So
I
rather
hear this.
than looking at the economics affecting the man and woman on the street, they looked at how they could use computer models to automatically trade across the entire world to accumulate billions in nanoseconds. That's how economics became the joke that it is today.
What's it got to do with black holes?
It's got everything to do with black holes, because as I said, now, just 1 second, I'll take it 1 second. Firstly, the reason why people believe in black holes is not because they've studied the physics of it, it's not because they've studied the mathematics of it, it's not because they've studied the models of it, and it's not because we can observe the same process on Earth. But we think we can, because when we lose a pen, we turn around and say, where the fuck has that pen gone? Maybe it's gone, and when we spend trillions of dollars to save the banks that somehow have lost all the money, we say it's gone into a black hole. And therefore it's become part of popular consciousness. Science, mathematics, culture, education are tied to a society. They are not separate from it. And therefore, in the Spanish Inquisition, when Galileo looked up at the heavens and concluded, contrary to popular opinion, that the Earth revolved around the sun rather than the other way round, he was called a heretic and forced to recant.
Do you realise you're doing the same thing?
On the contrary,
You're
my friend.
contradicting scientific deduction and fact for the sake of ideology.
No, what I'm contradicting is mathematical models.
Galileo established
There is no
through
observation
mathematics.
of the process of the black hole anywhere on Earth. None. There is no actual
I hope not, I'm
observation
glad.
of a black hole in practice.
Roger
What we have
Penrose-
is
Roger
a model superimposed by data collected by telescope stations, which are then modelled around a theoretical model and adjusted to produce an image. Just the same as if you go on Photoshop and you want to make this person's face disappear because that fits your model of what you want to produce, then you adjust the Photoshop until his face disappears.
So what's the interest of finance in doing that? You're not, the question you said, financial institutions support, what's the end goal?
I said because there is a term used quite widely in science and in society called path dependence. You start out on a particular route, and to adjust yourself from that route becomes difficult. Because if I finance you to study this peculiarity of the hair on his head, and I say to you, by studying the peculiarity, and I say to you, the peculiarity,
Get a refund from
one
your
minute,
hairdresser.
the peculiarity of the hair on his head will eventually find the resolution to why we exist on Earth. And you write a PhD on it, and you get tenureship at a university after having written a PhD on it, and you get funding to assemble a team of scientists to examine his hair for 100 years. Are you then going to turn around and say, when someone says that's all bullshit, are you going to turn around and say, oh yes, it's bullshit? You're going to say, no, we've been engaged in this.
This is exactly why Marx is unscientific.
Right, and the majority in cosmology are focused on accepting, firstly, the Big Bang Theory, secondly, black holes exist, or better said, almost black holes exist.
Hold on, I think you're saying
Just what's that?
The person who disproved that would get a Nobel Prize.
exactly.
Yeah.
There's still questions about black holes. You're looking at one picture going, this is either
It's not a picture.
by one image
It's an image created by a computer model.
from data.
A computer model from one-dimensional data.
Also,
This is a picture of me. It's not a theoretical model. Well, it's got long-term observational experience. Right? There's supposed to be a black hole in the middle of our galaxy. Why don't they photograph that one? Why don't they go for that one? Why don't they go for that one? Further and further away. Why go for that one?
I can't see it from where we are.
There isn't
What's
enough
that?
money in academia for what you're saying to me.
I don't understand what you're talking about.
Why didn't they take a picture of the Earth when the guy said it was round instead of flat? Yeah. Did they have the technology to do that? Or was it some scientist who was saying, based on what I've observed, the data that I've received, this is what I believe?
Well,
Aren't we in the same place that they were then?
Not really, no. Not really, no. Not really, no, because Galileo could put up, could confirm the ideas of Copernicus.
There are black holes, but we don't have the technology quite yet to be able to look at it and say this is exactly how it works. But chances are 90%, 80%, 70%, this is what's out there.
How do you know what percentage it is?
I don't. That's why I said 90%, 80%, 70%.
Perhaps 10%.
Perhaps 10%.
Perhaps 1%.
Copernicus, Galileo.
So what do you ask yourself then? If you don't know, and you're admitting you don't know,
I don't.
Excuse me, sir.
I'm admitting I don't know. But I'm saying to you, I'm saying to you, I am not a scientist in cosmology. I have discussed with one scientist who I know, who is an expert in cosmology. We broadcast it on the YouTube channel from Speaker's Corner last week. You can go and check. You don't have to, because the overwhelming majority say the opposite. So this is just one contrarian view. And by the way, you only need one contrarian view to destroy scientific consensus, right? So, the scientific consensus in economics supports capitalism and econometrics, yet it fucked the entire world. We know that sociologically, right? Sociologically. So if we can observe something from which we all know something about, we all know about economics, because we all need to feed ourselves, clothe ourselves, house ourselves, transport, find employment. produce wealth. We understand more about economics than about black holes, than about chemistry, than about biology, and then about philosophy.
Can I ask you something?
And yet, despite trillions of dollars of funding for economics, economics remains a mystery unless you examine Marxism.
Galileo, Kepler, Marxism is the key to everything, everybody, whole universe.
No, I said
Galileo,
economics.
Kepler and Copernicus arrived at the result that the sun was stationary and the earth went around the sun using mathematics.
Well, Galileo by
yet-
observation, actually.
No, mathematics.
Galileo confirmed the ideas
But it
of
came out
Copernicus
no,
by
no, no.
observation.
No.
Yes, it's true.
And that Helios thing.
You can have there is
Confirmed
the
by observation.
Ptolemaic version of the world with cycles and epicycles, perfectly consistent. Don't do this.
But what do you want to say now?
I'm getting
What are you
there, I'm
aiming
getting there,
at?
I'm getting
Are
there.
you
You
trying to
spoke a
show
lot.
you know something,
This
or are you
have a
aiming at
civilised
something?
debate,
What do you,
right?
what do
I
you
know
want to
Marx
debate?
are very civilised,
What's your
but,
subject
try.
matter?
I'm telling you, I'm
First you
telling
start
you.
the Soviet Union.
Take turns.
Yeah, for God's sake.
No, but you haven't been
The
here for a while.
Ptolemaic system of cycles and epicycles was perfectly consistent with observation. It wasn't mathematically.
But who did the
elegant.
observation?
Ancient Greeks.
I mean,
It wasn't mathematically elegant. It didn't make sense from the perspective of the mathematical
does that
model.
matter?
Yes, it
Yes,
does.
it did,
Does
because
it?
that's what
Yes, it
made,
does.
Does it?
that's
You
what
know-
made
you know-
Copernicus.
Elegance.
You know how proving
The
theory
elegance
works?
matters.
Yes.
What is mathematics? What is mathematics?
When we see something, we rely on eyewitness testimony. Now, our eyes can so easily, almost fooled by anything. It's for anything to be proven, it needs to be proven by a system that works perfectly, like maths.
Perfectly.
Yes, perfectly.
Tell me the square root of pi. Tell me what pi is.
Pi is
Mathematics. Is it precise?
Yes, it is.
Perfect. The square root of pi is 3.141.
I'll tell you the answer.
3.14. Hang on. I'm saying it never ends.
So,
Therefore, it's not perfect. It's not perfect.
Square root
Cannot
of
be
pi.
perfect.
I'll tell you the answer.
Where does maths come from?
I know it.
Where does
Square
maths come
root
from?
of pi.
I mean, what's pi?
Is that number?
What is
wait
pi?
a second. What's pi? It's the ratio between the circle.
I know,
What's the number?
It can be
3.14. Carry on.
But that's a
Carry
question
on.
of memory.
It's unending. It's unending.
Thomas would be a cunt. I love you. Yeah, I love you too, bro.
Oh, it's all getting serious now.
I'm a really nice guy.
Gotta get the stick in.
You're a really
get
nice
the wand
guy.
in.
You're calling us, I'll see you next Tuesdays. You're getting really
Why did you say
aggressive.
all? Why did you say all? I said you. I never said all. I said you. You're a cunt. I'm pretty sure you called me. That's just an English word.
Well, the speaker's corner.
I've seen him. He's a cunt. I know.
All
I
right.
talk to you. Fuck off. What are you talking
You came over here.
I'll talk to this man here. You come here. Fuck off, cunt. You're gonna have a stick.
That is anti-Semitism.
Get me on. I'll be able to deal with this cunt.
Cunt is an English word.
I do aware of that.
Yeah, but it's not a swear word.
Just went off.
Do you
What's
love
that about?
the Jewish people? I love everyone. I don't hate anyone.
But you love the Jewish people.
Yeah.
Okay, you do.
No, I do.
So can we get back to the conversation? Yeah. So, what you've got a sign, which suggests you've got a philosophy that the Rothschilds control the global money supply and we're all slaves to Rothschild. So I'm asking you for the evidence. So when I come and talk about Israel, Palestine, I'll bring evidence. I'll have facts and I'll use those to argue my point. So all I'm asking you, so you gave the history that Mayor Rothschild had 4 sons, he sent them to different countries and they established some banking families, yeah? No one denies that, no one debates that. But what you're saying is the entire world is enslaved by Rothschild. We all work for Rothschild.
I'm talking about the politicians.
Okay, so you're saying the politicians all work for the Rothschild.
Yeah, because they
so I'm
set
asking
up the
what's your
political
evidence?
system.
So
They set up the political system. Yeah, well, look at the protocols of Zion.
Okay.
Oh, that's tasty stuff. Oh, there it is. Yikes.
And the New World Order.
The New World Order. Or as you like to call it, the Jew World Order.
I'm
joking.
But no, you're not, because you're trying to put words in my mouth.
So what
I don't trust you.
You don't trust me because I work for Mossad, yeah?
Don't trust the rough justice.
Yeah, well, because you come from a very, very sick position.
I come from a sick system.
Us gingers should have more. We should work together. I don't like this.
Well, the Talmud.
The Talmud?
Yeah.
What is the Talmud?
Have you heard
The
of it?
Talmud is the book of law of the Judaism religion.
Yeah?
It says you're allowed to rape children.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah,
No,
it
it
doesn't.
I knew you've not got a problem with
He's
Jews.
caught him in the wild.
Let's get the evidence.
I thought you redheads
Why
should
have you
stick
shaved
together.
your eyebrows off?
Well, you've been personal when I'm showing you evidence. So, that's,
So here's his evidence. Let's
Alright,
look
you
at
don't have
this
to answer
evidence.
the question, but
No, I'm not answering a stupid question.
So where's your evidence?
where's your
So
eyebrows more like?
54B.
So
A Jew may have sex with a child as long as the child.
should we go to this and have a look at this?
Oh no.
So basically, what this is talking about, just so you know the context, it's talking about when a child is raped by somebody else, are they considered to be a virgin or not? And because the child was raped, they're saying it's not a virgin, therefore it doesn't. Unfortunately, back then, listen, instead of making silly faces, back then, whether like it is in the Islamic world today and like it used to be in Christendom, if somebody was considered chaste or not was an issue that had consequences for when she came to get married. And so they said if this person is raped, it's to be considered that she hasn't had relations. It certainly doesn't say that you can have sex with a child as long as the child is less than 9 years old. Nowhere does it say that. And if you want, we can go to the actual text and have a look. So,
what does Goyim mean? What's Goyim mean?
Goyim means nations.
No, but it says cattle.
So the Jew,
cattle.
listen.
But it says there, all children of Goyim are animals.
So listen, and you'll get an education.
Don't wave your hands in my face. I'm not waving my hands in your face.
Goy is the Hebrew term for nation.
That's not
So
what
that
it's-
the Torah, the Old Testament,
I've never heard
calls
that
the
before.
Jews a Goy Gadol. So when Jews refer to other nations, they call them the Goyim, the nations. Yeah? So you're following. So I'll show you in the Hebrew. Goy Gadol is what the Jews are called. The Jews are called a great nation in the Old Testament. No, he's not Christian. But to come back to Rothschild.
Get your hands on my face.
Why are you getting aggressive?
No, you're getting aggressive.
I'm not getting aggressive.
No, you're getting aggressive. You're getting aggressive.
Are you feeling threatened? If you're feeling threatened, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
I don't like you.
You don't like me? Why? Because I'm Jewish.
No, I didn't say that. That's your words, not mine.
So you've got fake quotes from the Talmud.
They're not fake.
You're walking
Check
around
them
with.
out. Check them out.
I didn't even get the context. Get more straight in the middle.
So we'll do a few tests first. So
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Well, the same rights to the Arabs and 90.
Tell everybody to get out of the way.
I'll get my trolley, yeah? Why are you so obsessed with Jews?
I'm not obsessed with Jews. I'm obsessed with doing the right with.
Yeah, he's obsessed with the truth.
Yeah, with the truth.
Are you the truth?
Ain't just Jews, it's Christians.
You're not a Christian and you're not an eco-nationalist, so just basically anti-Semitic.
Well, that's your words. You're anti-Semitic.
No, not. I believe in protecting the Jewish people.
But the Jewish people aren't Semitic. They're being
I
able
didn't
to
say
come from.
Semitic, I said the Jewish people.
That is pretty good.
They don't come from.
No, I didn't say that, I said the Jewish people. We should defend them until the end.
A grown man having intercourse with a little girl is nothing. Having intercourse with a girl less than 3 years old is like putting your finger in the eye.
Yeah.
Question. What's your name?
John.
John.
Okay.
So, what does that mean they all work for Rothschild?
It means that all the politicians.
What do they say?
All the politicians. Well, the Rothschilds have owned the money system for the last.
Take a quick walk around Speaker's Corner, mate. I'll show you where I'm going.
So therefore, the sweat on my left hand is the same as the sweat on my right hand.
Hey, they're over there. Bob's over there.
Well documented.
He's over there. Took it to the guy in the back. Who's Bob?
In Japan, between the ages of 40 and 74, there's a fat loss. Isn't there a massive problem in Japan for the birth rate? Yeah, but that's surely a cultural idea. That's a different topic. Order!
stupid. I accepted that. Did I dispute that? No. What you're saying is that we are the same as each other. That's not true. What you're saying is this note is the same as that note. That's not true.
Who said that?
Who said that? Disprove it.
Nothing going straw man.
I asked you, show me one object in this meeting which is the same as another object.
You
said $10. I said, show me one object.
Who's the mayor of London? Is he white?
No, but who cares?
Who cares?
Yeah, but then again, that's just one mayor. Go back. King Livingston, all the way back. Boris Johnson. Yeah, but again, she may be talking about history. I mean, you can't talk about the last couple of years compared to how many mayors London had. Yes.
We enslaved Jews, the North Africans. We had 1.5 million of white slaves. And interesting, they will never say it in this country or in Europe and in America. We had 1.5 million of white slaves. You should read the book of Milton Giles. He was born on the 15th of January 1966 from Bristol. It's an academic book, not this one. But we had 1.5 million of the white slaves. The youngest white slave was named called Thomas Pillow. And this is the history.
Man like Shamsi. The cameraman there, you know, from the past.
Can you separate Isaiah from John, please? And then you go to John?
The number says love one another. It's a good message, love one another. Manson.
In the day of judgment, we are not going to go to paradise.
We're going to go back to the Rothschild story. DJ Riz just took over that. I'm going to watch that later. And I hate them. Kecky man there. You know them Keck man there? And like you and Jones.
Like this.
Man like King William.
It was amazing. Hello, how are you?
King William?
What is the name of your website again?
Where's your hat?
Oh, I forgot it, left it in the car.
Content over everything. We're going to have to record it again, you know, because the mic that I put on you was...
Okay, we can do it.
It needed batteries.
Did you say the content of everything?
Content over everything.
Is that your site, yes?
Yeah, on
Wow.
YouTube.
Content of everything. I had forgotten to remember because I have a poor
Over,
memory.
not of, over.
Huh?
Not of, over.
Content
O-V-E-R-N.
over. Oh, very good. Otherwise, I'd have lost it. Over everything.
Yeah,
I
that's
probably
right.
remember it now because I've written it down. You see,
That's
so I
right.
probably remember it. Very good. Content over everything. It's really important because now the issue is free speech.
Yeah.
And I noticed about 2 weeks ago, I was trying to ponder what the issue between Remainers and Brexit. What's the issue all about?
Yeah.
The issue is about free movement or free speech. I would sooner have free speech and less free movement than can go anywhere but they tell me to shut up. You can't say this, you can't say that, which is what Europe is all about. Europe is imposing, like Catholicism. The Catholic says you can't figure out the Bible for yourself, didn't they? They didn't want it translated into English, the Catholics.
Okay.
So when they translated into English, what do? Those men were burnt alive.
Yeah.
Because they read the Bible and they say, you got it wrong. So we have to be aware that the real purpose of life is to find things out through free speech. Once you deny free speech, you cannot work anything out. Why are the English people so clever people? You know the inventions of the English? It's staggering, because they have freedom of speech. They're the cleverest people in the world. Because freedom of speech. Europeans, they try to stifle.
Is that what you're talking about today, freedom of speech?
A little bit I'm reminding people about freedom of speech. I'm here today and I can talk about the theory of the last days because we have freedom of speech. If I was alive 500 years ago in Europe, I would be burnt alive for what I teach. Because I teach Jesus didn't come from a virgin. He wasn't born from a virgin. His father is Zechariah the priest. That's where Mary was when she conceived Jesus. She came out and she gave birth to Jesus 3 or 6 months later. Well, there's only one man in that house. Anyone who has got basic intelligence could work out who the father of Jesus is. Why have people suspended their intelligence?
You tell me why.
People always suspend their intelligence to a powerful narrative. Like global warming, they say man-made global warming. You can't prove...
What makes the narrative powerful?
Pressure. For instance, if
social
all
pressure.
sorts of social pressure. Now, if you're going to church every week and you're telling your friends, I don't think Jesus was born from a virgin, you're not going to last long. You'll be outcast. But if you say, I believe Jesus is the Son of God, but Zechariah is his father and John the Baptist is his brother, if you say that, it won't make any difference. People say, no, he's born from a virgin. Because people are believers, they believe what they're taught. That's why mainstream media brainwashes people. That's why you are so important, your media. Because you let people speak who could never speak on mainstream media. When Trump came, I came up to the Buckingham Palace and I had a big banner and they let me in. I was allowed in. Welcome President Trump, that's all. And
you like President Trump?
Welcome President Trump. Yes, I like President Trump.
What is it about him that you like?
Because he's standing up to the deep state. The biggest threat to mankind is to be controlled by bureaucrats and you have no freedom anymore. It's about free speech. Trump isn't a perfect man. He doesn't have to be a perfect man. It's not about Trump. It's about what he represents, which is freedom of speech. The deep state is fake news. Now, up in Buckingham Palace the other day, there were loads of people. I brought the banner. People were having using it as a backdrop for their photos. The BBC came along with a big camera, this BBC cameraman. He looked at what was happening. People were happy to be photographed under a Welcome Trump banner. And he said, I can't believe this. This can't be happening. He wasn't interested in the truth and he never filmed it. He had this big camera, not like your little smartphone camera. He had a giant camera, had this big camera. And he thought, he's amazed by what's happening. He says, this shouldn't be happening. So he didn't film it. The public wasn't allowed to know. So you are replacing the BBC. You are replacing the BBC.
That's right. Man, don't listen to BBC.
So you don't need fake news. And Trump says, fake news. He's pointed out to everyone, he challenged fake news. Normally, if you challenge...
At the end of all of my videos, I tell man straight, man don't listen to ITV, man don't listen to BBC, man listen to C.O.E.
Oh,
that's my thing. Content over everything.
That's very, very good. Yeah. Yes, you have to find out the evidence, the real evidence. So if you'd come up to Buckingham Palace and you'd seen all the people that came to be photographed under the banner Welcome Trump, and you filmed it and you put it online.
What do you think the reason are that most people support Trump? Do you think they support him for the same reason that you mentioned?
There's a historical feeling that Britain and America represent freedom, spiritual freedom, whereas Europe is Catholicism and represents slavery. And remember, America was founded. I want
to know what you think the persuasion of the people are that do support him.
What they're persuaded by. They simply are unrepresented by the bureaucrats and the Democrats and the fake media. Fake media is just manipulative.
What do they see in Trump? What do you think that they see in Trump?
They see a more representative government coming. The breakdown of the control of the media over people's minds.
Did you hear about, apparently he's spoken out of place recently in one interview he done with ABC, I think it is, where he called for foreign governments. I don't think he called for them. He said, I think they questioned him, they asked him, would you accept information about your political opponents from foreign governments? Something like that.
Yes, he said he would, didn't he?
Yeah.
He said he would.
What do you think about that?
Well, do you believe in the truth? Yes.
Do I believe in the truth? What does that mean?
Well, do you think the truth should come out?
Yeah.
You see, so if you're news media, you're not against the truth coming out.
It depends on what the truth is. If the truth is something that's scandalous about me, then I'll be less
Okay.
Want full of that to come out.
Okay. What about if you are going into public life?
Good,
do you think that you
If I'm
want to
going
be?
into public life,
Everybody
then yeah.
wants to be good. And anyway, when something comes out, it's the past, isn't it? It doesn't mean that person still would commit those scandalous things.
There's implications though.
There's implications, and the public would have to decide: is that person changed? Right? There was a time when Bill Clinton, he was known to be on drugs and everything else, so he decided to go to the church and he pretended, I'm born again, I believe in Jesus, I'm saved, you see. But it was all fake. It was all fake. He played the crowd, you see, so people can play the crowd. When they get caught out, they can say, yeah, I've come to Jesus, I've seen the error of my ways, yeah? But the public has to be discerning. They have to understand what's real. We're always trying to find out who is real.
So perhaps that's why people should know instead of believe.
That's right, we need to know. When I was a young man, I thought, what do I believe and what do I know? What can I be certain of? So when I approached the Bible, understanding the Bible, I looked at the mathematics, because the mathematics don't lie.
No.
And in the mathematics, I found the last parallel of history, which is the time we're living in. The 20 years we're living in is equivalent to the 2,000 year cycles of providential history. It has the same pattern. It has the same pattern. So if you study the patterns of history, what we know that the time we live in, plus the last 2,000 years, has the most information recorded.
I might come back later. Okay. Need to go check my camera. Sandy, I'll go on your right. I'm live streaming now. You see it in the park now.
You're not doing videos in that?
I'm doing live right now, but what you saying?
What you saying?
What you doing in the park? You said
I'll back, innit?
You said.
Jakes.
Yeah. So you wonder, what's the motive since you've been back in the park?
I'm just like, first day back after 6 months. I just
on a calm one.
Yeah, just seeing what gone,
What's the plans for the future though?
The future, just we'll see what the future holds, because we don't know if I'm going to be alive tomorrow. I don't know, you get me? But I have to be on my best behaviour. If I do one little thing, I get banned forever.
Yeah.
One small thing.
What messages though are you going to try and bring back to the park? Or how are you going to try and influence the park now that you're back?
Like, obviously, I'll come with some serious talks, you get me? Some serious knowledge, some serious, try and affect the people, you get me?
Yeah.
In a good way. Yo, what are you saying?
That's what you want.
What are you saying though?
None, I'm just strolling still. Huh? Mr. Rack, what about him? Where is he? I don't know.
You live, yeah? Yeah, big up days, Mohammed. Nah, it's a toothbrush, isn't it? You know what?
What's it called? Mushroom.
Miswak. Yeah, what are you lot saying though? Big up everyone, thanks for the love and support, yeah, thank you.
Let me take in the shea bread. Let me even know at the back.
You're good.
Let me get it.
You're going to get better photos of me right now. Okay, go to the house and come eat. I put the camera, not eat to someone else. So go to the house and come eat. I'm calling towards you. Oh, we're celebrating the brother's birthday. Oh, okay, you're going to be poetry, yeah. Come to my house. You see when I face like that, you're going to be like, not really going to have too much of an issue. If I say to you, if you don't come, you're going to hell, bro.
We've got Aji, bro. We've got Aji.
I'm here.
We just come from a Saudi embassy. We're doing a little protesting. They're protesting against the desecration of shrines. So the Saudi embassy have been cutting off a lot of shrines of the prophets, companions. Because they're more of a Salafi Wahhabi people, so they don't like that shit. So they wiped it completely off. So we're saying that's part of our heritage and culture, but you don't have a right to do that. So we were protesting there.
So
debate-wise?
No, I'm talking about in Saudi. You want the international community to intervene or something?
Say again?
You want the international community to intervene?
Yeah, ideally what we were trying to say is like right now you have this epidemic of ISIS. Huh? No, that's cool, man. You can do it. Yeah, it's cool. It's rolling. So our team, Behaviour, have just come from Saudi embassy, where we're currently doing a protest. We're protesting against the Saudi regime and the desecrations of the Prophet's companions' shrines there. So a lot of the companions' shrines of the Prophet's family is buried in Jannat al-Baqi in Saudi Arabia. So they actually, once Saudi Arabia was formed, one of the first things they did was they desecrated the shrines, completely destroyed them.
Why did they do that?
Huh?
Why did they
So
do that?
generally their theological view of Saudi Arabia is Salafi Wahhabi Islam. And so one of their beliefs is that you're not allowed to have shrines that you can attend to.
What they say, that's according on what?
They say it's a kufr or it's disbelief to attend to them.
Where did they get a ruling from them?
It generally comes from some of the views of the earlier scholars like Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab, who introduced this theological view that we should not have it. Going to these shrines is not permissible. Calling upon the Prophet's family's names is not permissible. And a lot of the Salaf theological view, which a lot of the brothers from the park are here from, take from that scholar, Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab.
That scholar, where did he get it from?
He got it traditionally, it's from himself. So it's something that prior to him, a scholar by the name of Ibn Taymiyyah came. And he is one of the most earlier Salafi scholars which had this view. Where did he get it from? It's difficult. We say it's something which was innovated.
What do they say?
We call it an innovation.
Yeah.
We don't believe that was the Prophet's view ever.
I want to know what they say. Like, what are they saying is their evidence or reason for why this should be the way?
So they would argue that we're the innovators, and they would argue that they never had this history of heritage of compiling shrines of the Prophet's companions or the Prophets themselves. So they're trying to say, you have to bring us the proof. And we're saying, no, this is a belief and this is a practice by us, and you have to bring us the proof why it's not permissible. So we believe in something in Islam, everything is permissible until proved unpermissible.
I beg you go over by my camera.
The camera's over there?
Les Irlandais, on a massacré le monde. Et on va démontrer au monde.
I respect.
I have like a small question. Would you say that for a communist society, any profit of this, you need a sufficiently advanced capitalist society so that like
This was the argument of Marx.
Yeah, no, my problem is I haven't read enough. I haven't read Dust.
What they said was this was comes on to a question like globalization.
I just saw a brother who had that first discussion in the spark room.
Lenin.
Behind me. I won't bet him up. He just looked at me,
Like the beginning of the transition to revolution. Because it universalized capitalism into a single entity battling it out for marketplaces. And that, they said, meant that it didn't seek to develop countries like Britain or France or Germany in Russia or India or China. Instead of this, they would be controlled countries where the dominant imperial power distorts the development. Who let people like this in?
Side of him. I got the slap and you took his side. Thank you. You're not talking anymore. We are not talking anymore. That's it.
We're rolling, yeah? Alright. Cool. So is it going to be a fresh take or is it going to be after that one? Is it a fresh take or is it going to be after that? Fresh one, alright, cool. Assalamu alaikum, guys. Big up and holla at everyone's C.O.E channel. We've just come from the Saudi embassy, our team Behaviour. Essentially what was going on at the Saudi embassy was a protest against the shrines which have been demolished by the Saudi government. The Saudi government has demolished the shrines of the Prophet's companions, of the Prophet's family. So the Prophet's family had shrines in Saudi Arabia, in a place called Jannat al-Baqi. These shrines were desecrated by the Saudi government. It's a place where we had hundreds and hundreds of years of heritage, and they were desecrated and destroyed. As Muslims, these shrines are some of the most historical and important heritage trademarks of our religion. And we don't believe anyone has a right to touch them. In the same way a Christian shrine has no reason to be touched, or a Jew shrine has no reason to be touched. Our own Prophet's shrines and our Prophet's companion shrines have no reason to be touched. So what they've done recently is Saudi Arabia for the past hundreds of years, they've been demolishing these shrines.
And we've seen something recently that's happening with ISIS, who are doing exactly the same thing, and demolishing some of the Prophet's shrines of the Judeo-Christian tradition.
As a non-Muslim, sorry to cut you.
Yeah.
It seems like it's something that you wouldn't want to do. You want to preserve
your heritage. Yeah, as a non-Muslim, as a human perspective, the thing you would want to do is keep your heritage.
I'm on the outside looking in, so give me some understanding as to why they do it.
Yeah, so the Saudi government is traditionally religion comes from the Salafi Wahhabi movement, and within their sectarian religion, it's not permissible to have shrines above the prophets. It's one of their theological standpoints. The earlier scholars which say this are scholars like Muhammad and Abdul Wahhab. These are the guys that introduced this. And Muhammad and Abdul Wahhab is a maybe 14th, 13th century scholar. He's very recent. 100, 200 years back, you're seeing the scholar coming, and he's saying these shrines are not permissible. Before him, who said this? Maybe Ibn Taymiyyah, to my knowledge. Sorry?
What do they base it upon?
So we regard this as an innovation. We say this had no basis in Islam. To say desecration of our shrines is something which is permissible, which is what they say. This is something which we're claiming they are innovators of. Because this is something which had for hundreds of years. How is it from the time of the Prophet to 1200 years later, the shrines have been there, and now somehow they're arguing it's become an innovation, and that we're not allowed to have these shrines. So we're arguing as Shia Muslims that we've had these shrines for hundreds of years, thousands of years. How are you to come in the 14th or 13th century? They would desecrate, they would build something on top of them. And then what happened in centuries after them, they would build something on top of them, until what you had today was a beautiful looking shrine on top. And what they've done today is essentially desecrated the heritage from the Muhammad. Sorry?
They done one today?
No, they didn't do it today, but we've been protesting year in, year out. So they're doing it for the past hundreds of years in a place called Jannat al-Baqi in Saudi Arabia. This is what they've been doing. And it's not known to a lot of the media, but it's actually there. So you see a lot of shrines have been preserved within Shia territorial areas within Iraq and Iran. So we've kept that heritage for ourselves. Likewise, Orthodox Sunnis also have kept that heritage for themselves. The only people who have a problem with this kind of heritage are Salafi Wahhabis. Feel me? And it's come to the point where you see a similar group doing exactly the same thing. Who? ISIS, Janab al-Nusra, Al-Qaeda. What are they doing? What we hope to achieve by doing that, I don't know how many brothers are listening to this, but how many of you this was going on? Did you know? So what is the first standpoint, going year in, year out to that same place, is to create a notification to the wider public to know that this is happening. And to know that people who are doing it from extremist sects in Islam, when they're doing it, who are they getting it from? Who are they getting the theology from? And who are they ascertaining from their people of authority to do this? So it's to let the wider public know to what's going on, and on a more general basis, it's to kind of stop it from going on for future places. So that other sects, when they come out and do this, you know who they're getting it from, and you know who they're getting the theology from. Cool? Sounds good? You gave a good understanding, yeah? Cool, man. Cool.
Hello, brother. How are you? Oh, yeah. Straight in front of you, mate. How are you?
Why do people allow
Albania. I saw number Albania.
Israel will in any case.
Many people record it, and it's going to be online. And some people, they maybe take you serious when you talk about deen. Next minute you're talking about the that you want to get married to her, to him.
No, come on, that's your.
Seriously, make me sick.
Brother. Let me do it. Let Shamsi. I'll be like shaitan.
Muhammad before. Muhammad, stop. Allow me to speak, Muhammad. I like
But would you allow me to speak?
Without any doubt. So my advice to you, Muhammad.
5 minutes, yeah? Without cutting you.
Sheikh, listen to him.
So Muhammad, I'll tell you.
No, listen.
You're gonna enjoy your time. You'll do whatever you wanna do. But coming talking about the deen of Allah, don't do it. Because Allah said, look, Allah said, لا تقف ما ليس لك به علم إن السمع والبصر والفؤاد كل أولئك كان عنه مسؤولا. Do not speak about the deen or about Allah, but something you don't have knowledge of, because your sama, your hearings, your sight, and your heart will be questioned. Hear me out. Talk about fighting, rapping, I don't know what you talk about, but don't talk about deen, because as I told you, many people record here, we cannot escape cameras here, people put it online, people in America, in China, Japan watching it, and some people are going to take you serious. One second you talk about deen, another second you talk about gay, I want to marry so and so, I want to do this, I want to do that. You see what I'm saying? You see, so you mix everything. Michael Jackson, about you Tupac, you rapper.
First of all, Adam Lam
That's my advice to you, man.
First of all. No, I'm just trying to say something. One second. You said don't talk about the deen. Yeah?
Yes.
I have to talk about the deen because it's wajib on everyone to Umar bil Ma'ruf wa nahy anil munkar. And for example, when I tell the people pray, do your salah. Don't miss Salat al-Fajr. If you miss Salat al-Fajr, the shaitan pisses in your ear. This is what Imam Sadiq said. The shaitan pisses in your ear. 1 second. Yeah, he pisses in your ear.
Brother, educate him.
One second. If you don't pray your Salah, 1 second. If you don't pray your Salah, are you a kafir? I'm asking you a question. If you don't pray Salah, are you a kafir?
Okay, I'm going to speak now, okay?
Answer my question. If you don't pray Salah, are you a kafir?
Only for me to answer, I have to speak.
But tell me about the Salah.
No, wait. I spoke to you, I gave you advice, okay? Now you go in detail, you said enjoy good and forbid the evil, without any doubt.
Yeah.
But enjoying good and forbid the evil, there is a fiqh to it, there is understanding to it. Not any khayt comes and enjoy good and forbid the evil. Understand? Because Muhammad, wallahi, seriously, many people see, they think it's crazy. Even they say, look, this is a Muslim guy, look, Islam, this and that.
Okay,
so bro, no, wait. One video talking about Shia, Sunni, talking about Bukhari, insulting Bukhari. Muhammad, you're not dare to insult Bukhari.
Let me speak.
You're not dare to speak.
You're speaking more than me. That's not fair. I'm going to have to speak.
You're not dare to speak.
But you're not giving me a chance. This is not fair, ya Habibi. This is not fair. I want at least 5 minutes and you don't cut me. And then
No, I'm just advising you. I'm going to walk.
Why are you going to walk?
Speak. Good.
Okay. Shamsi, I'm going to talk to you because I told you, I asked you a question, now you still haven't answered me. If a person doesn't pray, is he a kafir?
I don't hold opinions to be careful.
You don't hold that opinion?
Yeah,
But what does the Sunnah say?
The Sunnah says,
he's a kafir.
No, wait.
Al-Faraq bain al-Muslim wal-kafir.
You understand
Okay,
this hadith, which is going to quote, العهد الذي بيننا وبينهم الصلاة فمن تركها فقد كفر. The contract between us and the non-believers is a prayer. Whoever has left it is unbeliever. The scholars differ about this hadith. Why? Because a tark, what is a tark? Because tark has many meanings in Arabic language. One of them means rejected.
You mean he intentionally rejects it?
Rejecting it.
Okay.
So some scholars said, so the hadith meaning not he leaves out of laziness, even though we know one of the great sins, one of the major sins leaving of the prayer without any doubt. However, what we're talking about, so the scholars, they differ concerning the statement tarak. So some of them said left it out of laziness is a disbeliever. Some said taraka means to abandon it. And the proof of that, when Yusuf said taraktu millata qawm, I negated and rejected the belief of people, which is the people of Egypt. You with me?
Yeah.
Okay,
so
that's
Chelsea,
So I answered your question.
Alhamdulillah, thank you for answering. I'm gonna speak to you something, but if you give me in front of everyone 5 minutes to talk. 5 minutes.
No,
Shamsi, you can't. You can't. No. I listen to you, and I'm willing to.
Brother, can I ask you something?
Yeah, go on.
Is Salah ma'siyah or kufr?
It's a minor kufr. Yeah.
No, it's ma'siyah.
We'll come back to that. Listen, Shamsi. I'm challenging you, Habibi. Listen, I'm challenging you to the whole world. No. 5 minutes, you let me talk, but you don't interrupt.
No, I'm not going to, because I spoke to you many times.
No, I know.
You know that.
But I'm trying to save you. I'm trying to save you. I want to save him. 5 minutes. Gives you 5 minutes.
So therefore, you are here to preach to me.
Not preach. I'm trying to show you facts. I'm going to show facts in the Quran.
Mohammed, calm down. You're going to give me da'wah, correct?
Everyone's allowed to.
I'm not in doubt in my religion for you to give me
No,
da'wah.
it's not in doubt. What if I show you? What if I show you a major mistake?
What major mistake? What?
I'm going to show you now, but would you give me 5 minutes to speak?
I've spoken to you many times, Mohammed. So, Mohammed,
but I'm trying to save you.
Mohammed, stick to rapping.
No, but I'm trying to save you. What if I'm trying to save you?
Fireworks, wait, there's fireworks.
No.
Rapping in the car, that's what you do, man. Okay, but I'm going to advise to you, just stick to that.
Why don't you want to listen to me?
Because I don't want to listen to you, Mohammed. Okay, Mohammed, I pray to Allah to Shafiq, he heals you.
But listen,
take care of
Shamsi,
I'm going to go, seriously.
Who's your imam, Shamsi?
Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi
wasallam. Shamsi, brother. My imam as well. Can I ask you something? Who was the first person to accept Islam? Who was the first person to accept Islam? I'm going to ask you.
The first person.
It was Imam Ali.
No.
Yeah, it was Imam Ali. It was Imam Ali and Khadija. It was Imam Ali and Khadija.
So you know the answer. We asking me then.
Okay, I'm going to ask you a question. Another thing. No.
Are you asking me? Or you asking?
Because you're not letting me say. Okay, this 5 minutes will dismantle you. 5 minutes.
I'm scared to this.
Face me now, 5 minutes, and you will. It is a challenge. This is a challenge to you. I swear I respect you. I'm going to calm down.
Okay, calm down.
No, I'm just saying, I respect you. Out of respect. All right. Why you don't give me 5 minutes?
He come from
No, because I don't want no one to interrupt.
He come from Bern.
I spoke to you.
He come from Bern. Give us 5 minutes.
No, I'm going to, but you don't let me talk.
I spoke to you. هو جاي من البنك. أعطيه 5 دقائق.
Why you don't want?
I'll tell you why. If 1 hour was not enough for you to dismantle me, how 5 minutes going to be
5 minutes, 5 minutes.
I spoke to you for an hour.
If I don't dismantle you, I'll give you £1,000. £1,000. £1,000. I got the money. No. I got the money. 1,000. Shamsi, Habibi. No, I'm Shamsi. 5 minutes. Okay, I'll say it. You don't want to listen? Shamsi, you don't want to listen? I'm going to say it. Okay. I love you. Shamsi, I'm saving you because I love you. I'm not saying this because I don't love you. If I love you, I'm trying to save you. I'm going to say he's not here. Pretend he's here. Pretend this is Shamsi, all right? No, listen.
Maybe 1,000.
I'm going to him. I'm going to. No. We're going to pretend. Yeah, we're going to pretend that this is Shamsi because he's gone. So, Assalamu alaikum, brother Shamsi. We say, my brother. I know you from back in the days. Enough love, yeah. First of all, Shamsi, yeah. I just wanted to say a couple of things. I'm saying this out of love. I'm not saying this out of because I hate you. I'm trying to save you from the being wrong. Do you understand? And I know you think you're right, Shamsi, bro. But I'm gonna have to tell you this, bro, because this is gonna save you and save everyone who follows you. The ayah min al muhajirin min ansar. What does that mean? It means some of the muhajirin and the ansar. Radiyallahu anhu. It says min. It doesn't say all of them. If you من المهاجر means some. السابقون الأولين منهم only. رضي الله عنهم ورضوا عنه. This verse. These are the people which we talk about. Yeah. No. It's calm. السابقون الأولون منهم. Not all of them. The problem with you lot is not saying some of them. We're not saying all of them, we're saying some of them. You understand? Some of them. Minute, okay. Shamsi is saying all of them. Shamsi was saying all of them are
Ansar.
Yeah. What Shamsi is, what you're saying all of them are radiyallahu anhu. No. We respect the ones which Allah has says min al-muhajir as-sabiqun al-awwalun and min. We respect those.
Min, because maybe some of them.
Yeah. So Shamsi saying no, everyone who saw the Prophet Muhammad, that's it. Radiyallahu anhu. He's a Sahaba.
But the most.
No. But we're saying as-sabiqin al-awwalin only and some of them. So it's only a few. So you can't say Shamsi all of them. You can't say all of them رضي الله عنهم. You can't. And it says السابقون الأولون منهم only. So Abu Hurairah wasn't one of them because he wasn't سابقون الأولون. Do you understand? So this verse, which Samshi uses, has been dismantled because it says من السابقون الأولين من.
Yeah, it wasn't all
So it's only the Sabiqun Awlin and some of them. So Abu Hurairah is 100% is not in it. Do you understand? So okay, good question. He said أصحابي كالنجوم بأيهم اقتديتم اقتديتم. Very good question. So he's saying the companions are like stars. Whichever you grab one of them, you've been guided. Okay, so let me ask you a question. When Aisha and Imam Ali had war, some of the Sahaba went with Aisha like Talha Zubayr, and some of the Sahaba went with Imam Ali and they had war. Who are you gonna go with? Because from this hadith, you are saying no. See, no. But the Prophet never said. From what the hadith you've just said, but from the hadith you just said, you said the Prophet, he said, okay, so the Prophet never said stand in the middle. The Prophet never said stay in between. He said you have to choose one. And so who are you going to choose? You have to choose one. Because from this hadith, it's not saying stand in the middle. So you have to choose one of them. Yeah, I know, but 1 second. When Muawiyah fighted with Imam Ali and thousands of Sahabas were killed. And all of the time Imam Ali was on the haqq, on the truth. In the time of Jamal, he was on the truth. In the time of Safin against Muawiyah, he was on the truth. So all these times, you would have to go with Imam Ali. So, no, but from the hadith, from this hadith, it doesn't say bring peace. It says choose one of them and be guided from him. So if you come and read this hadith, then you have to either be with Imam Ali or with Muawiyah, with Imam Ali or with Aisha in the matter of Jamal. Who are you going to choose? The Sahabis killing each other. Also, another question to Shamsi. 1 second. The Shamsi is saying, all of the people that saw the Prophet Muhammad will radiallahu anhu and they will go to Jannah. What about the people and he says you have to follow the Sahaba. What about when the Sahaba killed each other? Who do we follow? There's two. Yeah, but who do you follow? No, you can't say. He's saying الذين تبعوهم. That's it. So who do you follow? When two people are killing each other. You can't. No, you can't say that. We all want peace. We all want peace.
I have believed in Quran and Hadith and Sahaba. I'm Muslim. I accept Allah, Muhammad, and Hadith and Quran. I don't follow if some Sahabi do any mistake, for example, I follow him.
Yeah, but that's what your hadith is saying. Follow him. Your hadith is saying follow them. So that's what. Exactly. Okay, so not everyone. So that's exactly what I'm trying to say to Shamsi. I'm saying not all of them. Not all of them will be in Jannah. Exactly. No, wait, 1 second. Not all of them. Yeah, of course he's ma'soom. If he does mistake, it's the Prophet ma'soom. The Prophet ma'soom, he doesn't make mistake. Yes? Okay, good. That's good you say that.
Yes.
Okay, that's your opinion. That's your opinion. No problem.
If you want to ban a person, what's a mistake? When he wants to marry the wife of the daughter of Abu Jahl, the Prophet told me to marry her, divorce my daughter.
Let me say something. What I'm trying to say to Shamsi is that this verse, min al-muhajirin aside, doesn't mean all of them. Because you say, Shamsi, he says he's Arabic. This is Arabic. Why don't you understand it? Why don't you understand it? Imam Ali was the first one. Yeah, but it's accepted. The young is accepted. And Khadija.
The Prophet, Jinn.
But we're coming back. Come back.
Then the family of Prophet first.
The lady was Khadija.
Yeah. And Imam Ali. It's accepted, child.
No, in child was Ali.
Let me, I beg you, let me finish it. So it's saying, الذين تبعوهم بإحسان. Not everyone, only those that تبعوهم بإحسان. So you can't say everyone. If he didn't تبعهم بإحسان, he's not accepted. So there's so many dismantlement in what he's saying. Like now, I've dismantled his argument. Because you can't say now all of them. And even the Prophet, there was some people, the Prophet said this guy is a munafiq. So how can you say ittaba' him? On what grounds can you say ittaba' him if that person is a munafiq? So this verse is not saying everyone. It's put specific people. Exactly. So that's what I'm trying to tell him.
What's your proof for specific people?
Because the Arabic is saying it. I'm speak Arabic. Me, I'm Arabic. I'm speak Arabic. As-sabiqun, al-imam.
Doesn't mean all of them.
Doesn't mean all of them. Yeah. So Shamsi is saying everyone.
95%, 99%. Yeah. The most is
No, but what I'm trying to say, I'm saying this. So what I'm trying to say is that to Shamsi is that his argument is being. His argument is finished. You understand? From this, he doesn't want to hear me say this. That's why I'm trying to tell him, because he don't want me to take. He doesn't want to hear me say this to him. He want to go away. I don't know why. You understand? So that's what I wanted to say, and there's more things I want to say because the only reason I'm saying this is to help him. It's not beefing and that, because I got love for him. I want to help him. I want to explain to him the truth. Because if I don't explain to him the truth, he's not gonna know. How's he gonna know? So someone needs to explain this to him. And that's I'm just giving an example, you understand? And look, those believe that and do good deeds, yeah, Allah says, they will be in Jannah khalidan fiha. You understand? There's a verse in the Quran that says, الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ إِنَّ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ لَهُمْ جَنَّةُ خَالِدِينَ فِيهَا. Okay? But that doesn't mean, for example, that verse says, those that do good deeds and believe. Not everyone, maybe he believed and he done one or two good deeds, that means he's him as well. Because maybe he done one or two good deeds, but he killed 100 people. It doesn't. That verse doesn't mean to him. Do you understand? So the verses in the Quran, they don't come to you specifically. They come to you in general. Do you understand? So it says those that believe and do good deeds, they'll be in heaven and stay in heaven. But what if someone believed and done some good deeds, but killed and stole and raped? No, that doesn't apply to him. Do you understand? So you have to. The Quran needs someone to explain the verses, to explain everything. Do you understand? And regarding like what I wanted to say basically, yeah, is that people need to think. They need to think to themselves, yeah, about the verse in the Quran. There's this verse story in the Quran about this guy. He was believed and he became a kafir. Shall I tell you his story? Basically, this guy was in the Bani Israel, the children of Israel. Yeah, he was the most very religious man. He's fasted for 70 years every day. One day, he used to treat people. One day the shaitan came to him. He was treating a woman and the shaitan made him do zina with her. This man, after he fornicated with her, he was very religious. He said, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? I just done fornication. You know what shaitan said to him? He said to him, kill this lady because this lady is going to make you fadiha. You know, she's going to expose you. So this religious man, he didn't want to be exposed. He killed the lady. He buried her. When he buried her, a bit of her clothes was outside. Shaitan went, her brothers came to the religious man. This story is in the Quran, but it doesn't go in detail, it just talks about it. It's from Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. 1 second. Yeah, it's in the Sunnah, you can read it. Yeah? So this man, her brothers came to the man. He said, where's the woman? Where's our sister? He said, I don't know. And they believed him because he's very religious. He said, I don't know, she went. Then Shaitan came to them, he said, your sister is buried. Look at that white cloth. They read it, they saw her sister. They got the man, they said to him, you killed our sister? He said, yes. They got him, they were going to kill him. They put him to crucify him. Just before they were about to kill him, Shaitan came to him and said to him, bow down to me and I will save you. Just before you're going to die, bow down to me and I will save you. So the man, he bowed down just before he was about to die. He bowed down to Shaitan, and what did Shaitan do? Then he got killed, then he died as a kafir. So this story, it just shows you that no matter how religious you are, right, what happened to you? Why did you go? Why did you go? So this man became from the most religious man for 70 years worshipping Allah. until he became a kafir at the end. You understand? So you never know what. No one can say I'm religious. That's it. You never know. The last minute, shaitan can come to you. That's why they say, the hadith says, the last times of when someone's about to die, the most thing shaitan comes to him is just before he dies. That's why you have to say La ilaha illallah, La ilaha illallah, La ilaha illallah. So you don't let shaitan. You understand? That's why when someone's about to die, you have to say to him, say a lot, La ilaha illallah, say La ilaha illallah. You understand?
You need to take him as enemy.
Yeah, no, especially when you're about to die. Because that's the strongest he comes to. Because if he gets you as kufr, forever and hell. That's why I'm trying to say to these stories, and I'm trying to say about salah. That's why we talked about salah, and we said whoever leaves it, it's a big sin, you understand? Especially morning prayers, all that, we said that, but that's important, because that's the most important thing is salah, you understand? The difference between a kafir and a Muslim is salah. So that's why I keep on telling people, do your salah. That's one of my biggest messages. And also, you know what happened to me? Let me tell you a story, brother. Just, Ramadan, the whole month, I'll read the Quran. The whole month, I'm not looking at bad things. The whole month, I never banged no chicks. I was such a good man for 1 month. Guess what happened? Shaitan was locked up. The second shaitan got released on Laylatul Eid. The millisecond. I finished Salat al-Isha, shaitans got released because they get released at the end of the month. Laylatul Eid, they all came out. Wallahi, as soon as I came out of the mosque, I said, that's it, the whole year I'm going to be a good person. Shaitan sent a Lebanese chick, I got on the bus, she said, Wagwan, you want to do things like that? Straight away, shaitan said. In my life, I've never had this. I've had other chicks, they told me, Wagwan, you want to do a thing. But this was Lebanese, Arab thing. This is me, whoa. This is a good opportunity. This is a good opportunity because I'm never going to get opportunity Lebanese chick. I've always wanted to get a Lebanese chick, you understand? No disrespect. Yeah, I don't know if she was a shaitan. Yeah, she was probably, I swear she was a shaitan. She came, she said, listen, come we do a thing. This is me, I just come out of the mosque. This girl, this girl's going to destroy me. Come on there. This girl's going to destroy me. So I come out, she goes, come we go and do a thing. And I was thinking to myself, you know what? I might as well marry this thing, yeah? Let me marry her and do a thing with her. Do you understand? Because she's an Arab thing, Lebanese, Muslim. So then I went with her and I don't want to go into details, but all I want to say is that from that girl, because of this girl, all my good work, all of this, I messed up the whole year. Do you understand? This girl messed me up. She brought me back, all the good things I was doing for the whole month, fasting the whole month, I finished the whole Quran.
Because you're not married.
Yeah, I know, I tried to marry her. No, I'm not married, but I tried to marry her.
You need to get married. You need to get married first.
Yeah, of course, brother, but what I'm saying, Shaitan sent this Lebanese chick, as soon as I come out of the mosque, as soon as Shaitan came out of prison, he just released, he said, I'm going to attack Modi. How did he attack me? He brought this Lebanese chick and she destroyed me. Just because of this chick, my whole year's gone back. All the plans that I had about me, she destroyed me. Who sent her? Shaitan. Shaitan can destroy you, bro. Don't think you can get saved, that you're safe from Shaitan. Shaitan is cleverer than me, you, everyone here. He knows how to destroy you. Only if you're a very strong believer in Allah and you're very, very protected. Like I told you, this guy from the Bani Israel, from the children of Israel, he was very religious in the time of Moses. And he got tricked. He was 70 years fasting. He was the most religious man. And he ended up dying as a kuffar. So none of us are safe. No one can say, oh, I'm safe, I'm this, I'm that. No one can say that. Because we don't know what's awaiting for us. Oh, I'm religious, that's it, I'm the best. No, we don't know what's happening tomorrow. We don't know if tomorrow are we gonna pray or we're not gonna pray. Do you understand? Are we gonna be Muslim? There's so many things, but what I'm trying to say is that if I come and advise you, yeah, if I come and advise you, yo, what you say? Like I said, the most important thing is salah, prayer. And I've said this, and if that's one thing that I can change someone and make him start praying, help him start praying, I'm happy. Do you understand? I'm happy about that. Because even if I get dissed, even if people diss me, even if people try and rush me, even whatever, but at least I can change someone's life, I don't care. That's why I'm going to talk, I'm going to speak, I'm going to spread the truth. understand? What's the first characteristic of a believer? He's very concentration in his prayer. There was a man, yes, my guy, what are you saying? Good, yeah, man. There was a guy, yeah, listen to the story. Yeah, what are you saying, my guy? There was a guy who was so religious, and they saw him in a dream. He was getting tortured. He was so religious. And then they said, why is he getting tortured? And in the dream they saw him. He said, because you know when I used to pray, I didn't used to concentrate, I used to pray fast. Just for a small thing, yeah, you can get tortured in the grave. You can get...
What's going on, Modine? What's going on, my brother?
I'm just saying, like, if you take your salah, if you take your prayers lightly, just for taking them lightly a little bit, you can get tortured in your grave. Just for like not paying attention, not, thinking it's like, oh, it's calm, I'm going to pray quickly. One time a guy came in the mosque and he prayed quickly. The Prophet Muhammad he said, that's the salah of the woodpecker. You know the woodpecker? What's that? Yeah, that's how you gonna pray like quickly? You have to pray. It's like, people do meditation. Buddha and all these people. They go to meditating places. Salah is like meditation, bro. You're gonna meditate. El-salatu ma'raj al-mu'min. The salah is the elevation of a believer. What does that mean? Like I said, he goes up to the sky. That's why when we say meditation and you want to go to these Buddhist classes or these piece of yoga classes or meditation classes, you don't need that.
It's like thanking Allah.
You go to pray to Allah,
yes,
and you feel like you're flying, bro.
The best way to thank Allah.
Like you're on a magic carpet, bro. Aladdin like that. You go up, bro, because you become so spiritual. So you don't need all this yoga and meditate. They put like that. Just do your salah, pray to Allah. And that's why I came today. My first thing when I come back to Speaker's Corner, I've been banned for 6 months. The first thing I'm talking about is salah. And that's the most important thing. That's why any of you that's not praying around the world, do your salah. And this is my message to you lot. I'm not here to win a debate. I'm not here to tell people, yeah, Wagwan, I'm better than you. I'm this. You understand? I'm here to tell people. You understand? I'm here to tell people what's important. If I can I've saved people. If I can save more lives, that's it. More souls, isn't it? You know what I'm saying? Save. What? Hey. Hey, listen, yeah. Hey, listen. Big up C.O.E, yeah. And also, obviously, if Shamsi's over there, he's not here because he doesn't want to debate. I told him I'll give him £1,000 if you answer my question. He doesn't want to. So he won't go over there, he's here. Sir, they've misinformed him about, you get me? So Shamsi has been misinformed. He thinks that he knows Wagwan, but he don't know what's going on. Because obviously, like I said, yeah, Shaitan can come to you in different ways and can tell you this is right. You understand? You know Freud, you know Darwin's theory. Shaitan came himself, you know that guy that said evolution, he doesn't believe in God. I heard from these people that Shaitan came himself and taught, he done private tuition to this, I think it's Darwin, yeah. He done private tuition for him to say to him, yes, to teach him, you know these kind of people that have got a lot of influence. Shaitan comes to them and teaches them. Because these people, Shaitan says, why should I go and get tired and deviate 1,000 people? Let me just send one guy with wrong teachings and he'll do all the dirty work for me. That's why Brother Shamsi is similar to this, because he's getting the wrong information and the people that's following him thinking that's correct when it's not correct. When I'm telling him, wallahi, £1,000 now cash,
I will give you from my bank £1,000 cash. Just let me talk. He didn't let me talk. He just ran away. He didn't let me. And I'm telling you, bro, this is £1,000. Imagine you have to work, just to make £1,000. I'm saying I'll give you £1,000 cash now. Just come with me and just let me talk to you. Let me explain to you. He doesn't want to listen. And remember, yeah, I'm willing to discuss and debate with anyone. I will never walk away. That's why I'm standing here and I'm still here. Because I know I'm on the truth. I'm on the haqq. That's why they say, Ja al-haqq wa zahaka al-batil. The truth comes and the batil goes. The falsehood goes. The truth, you cannot break it down. It's like a mountain. The truth is like a mountain. Reveal. Yeah, and that's why I stay here like a mountain. I'm not moving. I'm ready to dismantle. I'm ready to dismantle. I'm ready to dissolve. I'm ready to annihilate their conception of, the Islam which they have, which has been changed, which has been fabricated, which has been, distorted. I'm ready to explain the truth. You understand? You feel me, brother? Come in the team. I'm here. That's why Modine's back. But the first thing before I do all of that, because he's my brother at the end of the day in Islam. I see him as my brother in Islam. And all of these people are my brothers in Islam. But I'm saying this to him and saying to all the youths out there, do your salah. That's more important than these debates. That's more important than I'm better than him or I won this. Salah is number one. Imam Ali, in the middle of the war, in the middle of the battle, he was praying. Salat al-Layl, night prayers, mustahab prayers. They said, Imam Ali, we're having a war. Muawiyah's evil forces, they came to kill us. Why are you praying? Imam Ali said, we're fighting just to save Salah. The whole purpose of us fighting is to save Salah. It's for this Salah. In the middle of the war, he was praying night prayers. How many of you pray night prayers? Tahajjud. He was doing tahajjud in the battle, Imam Ali alayhi salam, the greatest warrior. And some of us, we can't even do our normal prayers. That's why that's why I'm not making music video. I'm not making rap video. But I'm going to start doing that. I'm going to start making rapping, music videos, because that's what I'm going to start doing, because that's going to have more influence on the youths, bro. Obviously, Speaker's Corner, man can come, but I'm going to start doing it, bro, and start coming with some heavy lyrics and that. But soon, you get me? Not right now. But like I said, I'm trying to save souls, bro. Man's been going 6 months, I've been doing my own thing, but I've told you, look, salah. Salah, you know what salah? They say Imam Ali, when he goes to pray, and the Prophet Muhammad and Imam al-Hussein, when they pray, the color of their face changes. It is as if a snake has bitten him. Imam al-Hassan, the grandson of the Prophet, when he prayed, it is as if a snake, he was bitten by a snake. How when your face changes when you're bitten by a snake? That's how he was praying. When you face the Lord, the creator of the universe, you have to be shaking. You have to be humble. You don't just pray, oh, Allah Akbar, and you don't even think. There was a man, he told the Imam al-Sadiq, he said, this man, he drinks and he prays. And you know, drinking is one of the biggest sins. Imam al-Sadiq said, don't worry, he's going to change. He said, how do you know? He said, he's still doing his prayer, but one day, his prayer is going to stop him from drinking. You understand? One day, that prayer that he's doing is going to stop him from his bad action. So never stop praying. Do your prayer, do your prayer. My dad always taught me. He said, no. My dad, he said, if you're about to die and the adhan happens and you're drowning, do your salah. Do your salah and you're drowning. And it's time for salah, do your salah. Bruv, I was on the American Airlines going to Florida. British Airlines, whatever it's called, to America. In the plane, I said to the woman, my dad said, let's pray on the seat. We sit down, we pray. I said, nah, blood, there's no one on the seat. I called the lady, pink thing, yeah, the steward. I said, yo, man, it's to pray and that, you get me? She said, no problem, come. She put me someplace. Obviously, it was near the toilets and that, but what can you do, bro? It was not in the toilet, it was near it, you understand? She said, pray here. Hey, this is me, Rago, Allahu Akbar, I done the prayer on the American Airlines to Florida.
My dad was like, right, you're sick, Mo. This is me, bruv, come and do it. This he'll come. And he done a prayer as well. Do you understand? It's not messing around, bro. My brethren, I don't want to say that story, another story, but what I'm saying is Salah is not a joke, bro. That's why when Modin's first day back in the park after 6 months ban, what am I talking about? I'm talking about Salah. You can diss me as much as you want, but I've saved lives already because people message me, Mo, you saved my life. English people from Liverpool, they phone me, they say, well, you saved my life. Muslim people tell me you changed. I was not religious advocate. Why? It's from Allah. Because when you talk, you can change people. People, they're listening to Cardi B, or I don't know who, or Eminem, all these people. What's these people, bro? What is these people? They need to listen to things that can change them in a good way, you understand? I'm not here. You know they say the Salah is the Amud al-Din. You know what's Amud al-Din? Like this camera, how's it standing? There's something making it stand. Like that, with the tripod. If there's no tripod, the camera can't stand. It's like that with the Salah.
Excuse me. About me, I don't pray.
You Muslim? Yes. But you don't pray and no Ramadan. Brother, maybe this is a sign from Allah to change now. Because Salah, you know Salah? Even if you're the worst person, but make sure you do your Salah. Even if you wanna jiggy or do things or whatever, it's haram. But if you do your Salah every day, it will stop you from doing this. One day you will stop.
I am very good.
Brother, you have to pray every day. If you don't pray, brother, I'm gonna bang you up now. Don't get shit. Brother! I'm joking.
Yeah, I don't pray.
Hey, painting. Let me chat to you.
What about me? I am very good.
Brother, they say, I read hadith. You're not going to get upset now. I read the hadith. They say if you smile in a person's face that he doesn't pray Salah, you just smile in his face, it is as if you have destroyed the Kaaba. That's how big the sin is. If a person he doesn't pray Salah, I've read the hadith, and you give him food, yeah, it's as if you've killed 70 prophets. This is how big the sin is. I've read this. I've read this hadith. I'm not trying to say this is 100%, but this is what I've read. من أطعم تارك الصلاة, say in Arabic, كأنما قتل 70 نبي من آدم إلى محمد. The one that gives a person who doesn't pray food, it is as if he killed all the prophets from Adam all the way to the Prophet Muhammad. Look how big the sin is just to smile in his face. Blood, I'm gonna bang you right now, blood.
No, but hadith is in the Quran. You need everything.
Bro, in the Quran, what does it say? وَيْلٌ لِلْمُجْرِمِينَ الَّذِينَ لَا يَقِيمُونَ الصَّلَاةِ. You know what mujrimin means? The biggest criminals. It says Wail is a place in Jahannam, in fire, hellfire. It says Wailun, the place in hell, لِلْمُجْرِمِينَ, to the criminals. الَّذِينَ لَا يَقِيمُونَ الصَّلَاةِ, those that do not pray. The biggest criminal is the one who doesn't pray Salah. The biggest criminal. Alhamdulillah. But if you don't pray, it's like almost you kuffar. Salah is number one. الفرق بين المسلم والكافر الصلاة. The difference between a Muslim and a kafir is Salah. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi said this. Why is there so many youths, they say, Modin, I love you. Mod, if you love me, pray. If you don't pray, I don't love you. Khalas. If you don't pray Salah, I don't love you, blood. Modin doesn't love you. Only when you pray Salah, then you're my brethren. Even Imam Ja'far Sadiq said, if someone, you want to be his brethren, see if he prays on time. If he doesn't pray on time, don't be his brethren. Don't be his friend. Run away from him. Salah ala waqtiha. You know, you have to pray on time, not just you pray, on time. What if somebody is, I swear, all my bad luck in my life, all of it is from people that don't pray, they come around me. I swear. All my bad luck, all my problems, all my beef is from people, they don't pray, they brought me bad luck. Just because they phone me, oh, Mo, I want to link you, they link me and they give me bad luck. Just from walking with them, they give me bad luck. Imagine a person who doesn't pray, he comes and walks with you, he messes up your whole vibe. He messes up everything for you. Do you understand? It's not a joke out here, bro. That's why Modin is telling people, pray your Salah. Do you understand? That's my message. First day back after 6 months ban, my message is pray. And when you don't start praying, you're my brother. I love you. But if you don't start praying, alas, you're a waste. Even if you're my best brethren, you're my best brethren, right? You're not on camera though. Even you're my best brethren. If you don't pray, I'm not going to chat to you. And you're one of the safest guys I know. So I'm just saying, it's peak like that. I'm not going to smile in your face, I'm not going to joke. You understand? But also I want to debate, not just that. There's more things I want to say. I'm going to talk about them in a bit. But I don't want to stay too much. But you got one thing to say, bro? Nothing. But I don't want to get into that. Obviously, Shamsi, me and Shamsi, he didn't debate me, bro. He's scared. Yeah, see, he said it. He's scared because he knows I got something that good. I got the real hack. Man holds the hack, you get me? Man like Modin's got the hack. And man's coming in here to give the hack, bro. But all I need is man to face me, bro. Face me, come to me face to face, and let's do this, bro. But it's calm. It's calm. He's my brother, and I'm advising him fi sabilillah. I like him fi sabilillah. I love him fi sabilillah, and I'm advising him fi sabilillah because I want to save him. And once I save him, all the people that follow him, they will be saved. Don't just think, oh, he's going to be saved. No. All the people that is following him, they're going to be saved as well. But I have to save him first. That's why I need him to face me. We do this. One day we do this. Khalas. It's going to be, you know what I'm saying? But like I said, yeah, a believer loves the believer. You get me? But obviously, people are being misguided. People are being misguided. I don't blame them sometimes because their sheikhs are misguided. They're scholars for dollars. You get me? I'm here to say the truth, bro. What are you telling me, my guy? Well, it's peak, bro. But I come and say a thing, bro. Say a thing, innit? Man's done the ban, bro. But the first thing I came back and said on my ban, and I can't do nothing, because I've finished my ban, I can't mess around, you get me? I've got to be on my best behavior. You know what I'm saying? I've got to like, if the police put me on this thing, yeah, they said stand on this thing. I stood on it, they said lift your hand. I lifted my hand, they said swear I give an oath that I will not do this, that, and then they said if you do it, you will be banned forever. So I have to be on my best behavior. So now, I can't beef no one. Unless man starts swinging and that, yeah, I don't know, self-defense. Speak about Father's Day. Father's Day, yeah, all I want to say about Father's Day is that there's a man, yeah, there was a man who's so religious, yeah. You know Surah Al-Baqarah, the cow. You know why is it called Surah Al-Baqarah? Because there was a man in the time of the Bani Israel, the children of Israel, yeah? Now, I'm not talking about Israel, that country, I'm talking about the tribe of Moses, the people of Moses, yeah? The children of Israel, they call it, Bani Israel, yeah? He was a good boy, one day, his dad was sleeping. So when his dad was sleeping, the business caravan came around the house. So he never woke up his dad because he said, my dad's sleeping, I'm not going to wake him up. I'm not going to disrespect him. So the caravan went, and the key to the business was under his dad's pillow. So his dad woke up, he said, where's the money? He said, Dad, the caravan went, and I didn't want to disrespect you by waking you up, because you're my dad. What, paintings? Yo, what, brother? Yo, excuse me. Do you know? Forget that, yeah? So the guy, let me come back to the story quickly. So the dad, he didn't want to wake up his dad, because he respects his dad, didn't he? He respects his dad. So what happened was, his dad said, why did you wake me up? He said, because out of respect for you. Oh, is it?
Leave them alone. Just leave them alone. That's it. Yeah, I don't want to see you.
You good, brother?
I've left all this
What was you saying?
Don't tell me. I don't want it.
I thought you was talking about me. He was basically
Alex,
saying
what
that
do you have to
why
talk
they
about?
talking in front of the other people.
Yo, my mate
I don't know, it's like, why did you want to hide for? Why did you want him to go away? He's running. I asked him a question, he's running.
On anti-Semitism. No, wait.
It's not your debate. It is my debate. It's not your debate. One minute. It's not your country. It's not my debate. Not in Soviet Russia.
Can I just please...
Let's be quite clear about this. This is not your debate. This is my debate. What are you talking about?
I agree.
Who the hell are you? This is Speaker's Corner. I'm a speaker who's speaking at Speaker's Corner. I'm a speaker.
Let's stay on the subject, okay?
Basic order.
Yes, it's my debate. Why is it my debate? Because I organised one. One minute.
Some basic order in the conversation.
Gentlemen here is saying, is it my debate? Yes. Why is it my debate? One, I organised for
We have
peers to come
ownership
down
of debate.
Two, I discussed with the gentleman here about laying out the chairs and how we'd organise the debate. Three, I discussed with Leon about arranging this a day ago. So this is an organised debate, which I organised.
I agree.
I normally speak in Speaker's Corner myself. I have come down here specifically to organise this debate because it's been discussed over the last 2 weeks about Extinction Rebellion. That's the subject of this meeting.
Exactly.
If you want to have a subject meeting about anti-Semitism, fair enough. But we're not having it here now. We're not having it here now. We are not having it here now. Sorry.
When I get a question, you run away.
All right, I'd like to ask
I'm
you...
still sitting here.